Chapter 933. Su-Yin was completely at a loss. Could it be that there were two arms merchant ships from Canada competing for customers on this trade route? What did Gu Qia mean? Who was Bao Shisong? Where exactly did Mudo Ichiro bring Guogua to? A sharp pain like needles assaulted Su-Yun's brain. He knew very well that in the international city not far away, everyone was waiting for him to bring Guogua back. Everyone's trust in him was as natural as heaven and earth. However, he had made a serious mistake in his judgment because of his own audacity. The clues that Lin Gu had risked his life to track down had lost their meaning because of his arbitrary judgment. Su-Yin really didn't know why he was so confident. Just based on a phone call with Gu Qia, he naively said that Mudo Ichiro was on this ship. If Guogua was in danger because of this, Su-Yin simply couldn't imagine how he would face Wan Qingshuang, how he would face Chou Yun, and how he would face himself. The fatal mistake had been made. No matter how much Su-Yin blamed himself, he couldn't undo it. He picked up the Japanese who had said those words. "Tell me everything clearly. How did you know that the person I'm looking for is on another arms merchant ship? And how did you know that there are other arms merchant ships?" Su-Yin had already made an irreparable mistake because of his overconfidence. He wouldn't make a decision so easily. He had to understand everything clearly and not blindly believe the nonsense of a few Japanese grave robbers. Now he had no way of confirming whether Mudo Ichiro was in Huaxia or on another arms merchant ship in international waters. I'll tell you everything." The bruised and swollen Japanese grave robber didn't dare to disobey Su-Yin, who was almost crazy. "I swear that everything I said is true. When we were about to leave by the speedboat, we met 4 other people who were sailing late at night. We were worried that they would harm us, so we asked around. They didn't shy away from saying that they wanted to board an arms ship to Huaxia to do some smuggling business. At that time, we were relieved and chatted with them for a long time. Of course, we didn't say what we were going to do in Huaxia. We just said that we were going to do some smuggling business like them." After swallowing a mouthful of saliva, the Japanese continued. "Then we each drove our own speedboats to the agreed place on the high seas to board the ship. When we boarded the ship, we found out that those people didn't board the same ship as us. Every word I said was true. The person who helped us to contact this arms merchant said that there was more than one ship in Canada that traded arms on this route. One of them was expensive, and the other was cheaper. For the sake of safety, we chose the more expensive one because we feel that the higher the price, the safer it is." "Damn it," Gu Qia scolded after hearing this. "How dare you play this game with me?" After roughly understanding the cause and effect of the matter, Su-Yin threw the question to Gu Qia. "Who is Bao Shisong? He is a traitor among the Chinese in Canada. This bastard once betrayed the Great Circle and caused them to suffer a lot of losses." Gu Qia said, "This person is good at calculating his personal interests. As long as he can make money, he will betray anyone. After being expelled by the Great Circle, he actually turned to Canada's largest underground society, Dark Angel. We have long noticed that he stole the business of the Great Circle, but we haven't been able to find any evidence." "Can you contact this person?" Su-Yin asked. This was very important to him. Since Bao Shisong could betray anyone for his personal interests, it meant that he didn't have eternal partners in his eyes. As long as he was given benefits, he would cooperate with him. Of course, Gu Qia didn't have Bao Shisong's contact information, but if she wanted, she could still find it. After all, she was the Miss Gu of the entire Chinese circle in Canada. If it wasn't for Su-Yun's words, Gu Qia would never have done such a thing. Her hatred for Bao Shisong had reached the point where she hated him to the core. Even contacting this person made her feel disgusted. But now that the person who made this request was Su-Yin, she finally nodded. Gu Qia quickly made a few calls. About 10 minutes later, she received a reply. After getting Bao Shisong's contact information, Gu Qia suppressed her anger and dialed the number. This phone number was obtained through a very close relationship. It was Bao Shisong's private phone number, so when Gu Qia heard the phone being picked up, she said with certainty, "Bao Shisong, you're quite bold. You even expanded your business to the Pacific Ocean." The person on the other end of the phone was obviously surprised for a while, but soon understood. He laughed and said, I was wondering who it was. So it's Miss Gu from the Great Circle. Miss Gu, you really know how to joke. I, Bao Song, don't have the ability to steal business from Boss Gu of the Great Circle. It's good enough that I can make a living in Vancouver. Don't give me such high-sounding words, Gu Chia said in disgust. I'm not calling to settle scores with you now. I have something to ask you. Although Bao Song was smiling, he had already scolded the arrogant girl in his heart. If it weren't for her father, Bao Song wouldn't give her face. Miss Gu, if you have any orders, I'll do it for you. At this time, Su Yin extended his hand to Gu Chia. Gu Chia didn't hesitate and directly passed the phone to Su Yin. I think there's a good deal that you'll definitely be interested in. Su Yin went straight to the point. When Bao Song heard the change in his voice, he frowned. Who are you? Who I am is not important. What's important is whether you want to earn an easy sum of US dollars. Su Yin said calmly, you only need to do a very simple thing, and you'll get a generous return. Hearing that there was profit to be made, although Bao Song had doubts in his heart, his tone still became more polite. US dollars? Haha, 100 US dollars is still US dollars, $1 million US dollars is still US dollars. How much money can do what you want? I'm very clear about this. 10 million US dollars. Su Yin's words made Bao Song dizzy. 10 million US dollars. Although Bao Song didn't know what the deal was, he couldn't suppress the excitement in his heart. Brother, so much money? You're not asking me to assassinate the President of America, are you? Ha ha ha. If that's the case, then I don't have the ability to earn this money. In other words, he wanted Su Yin to tell him what he wanted him to do. He obviously didn't want to miss out on this 10 million US dollars. Su Yin didn't want to waste his breath. Are there 4 Japanese on your ship who went to Huaxia and brought back a little girl? Bao Song was silent for a while and finally chose to admit it. Yes, it's on my ship. You just need to give me the coordinates of your ship and let me board it. Su Yin's words were concise and clear. You should be able to do this easily. Chapter 934. It was natural for Bao Song to have concerns. After all, he made a living on this road. If he was not careful, he was afraid that his life would have already been fed to the dogs. Many famous sayings of great philosophers may be bullshit in Bao Song's ears. He only agreed with one sentence. Caution is the parent of safety. It was because of Bao Song's caution that he could survive in the complex and huge Canadian underground forces. Any Chinese in Canada who was not taken care of by the Chinese circle would find it difficult to survive. After all, the local Dark Angels would not really think highly of an outsider. Whether it was the Chinese circle or the Indian Hindustani gang, only people of the same country and democracy could be more unified and harmonious. Since Bao Song was spurned by the circle, it was obvious that he had done something despicable and disgusting. If he was not forced into a desperate situation, how could he hide from the circle and live with the Dark Angels? It could only mean one thing. If he did not seek the protection of the Dark Angels, only death would await him in the circle. Now that he was in international waters, if he told his coordinates to the daughter of the leader of the circle, wouldn't he be throwing himself on the chopping board and waiting to be slaughtered? He knew the strength of the arms merchant ship of the circle very well. The physical fitness of the mercenaries, combat experience, and obedience to the leader's orders were all better than the mercenaries on his ship. This will be the easiest $10 million you can earn in your life. If you give up, I promise you will regret it. Su Yin used all the coercion and temptation. Since he was sure that Guogua was on Bao Song's ship, he must not let Muto Ichiro take her away again. He did not know how scared the poor little girl was now. Thinking of this, Su Yin could not help but blame himself for his negligence, so he followed up with a threat. If you dare to let her go, I swear, whether it is on the surface of the Pacific Ocean or on Canadian soil, I will find you. Brother, now you are the one who needs my help. It is not your turn to threaten me, is it? Bao Song sneered. This did not mean that he had much courage. He also understood that the person who could board Gu Chia's ship and offer him such a high price was definitely not an ordinary person. This threat was definitely not just empty words. Hearing that Bao Song was not cooperating, Gu Qia motioned for Su Yin to pass the phone to her. Su Yin had no other choice. If he threatened Bao Shisong too much, he was worried that Bao Shisong would turn hostile. Even if he found Bao Shisong and killed him in the future, if Guoguo was taken away, he could not make up for it. He could only pass the phone to Gu Qia. Bao Shisong, Gu Qia said. As long as you do as we say, we'll forget everything that happened between us. Otherwise, you know very well what the Great Circle will do to you. Think it over carefully. Miss Gu, you know very well that no matter how big the risk is in the future, I will not leave myself in front of you on the high seas. Bao Shisong said coolly. Even if you don't want to kill me now, once you see me, you might change your mind. It's not that I don't want to give you face, Miss Gu, but please let me think of a foolproof plan. Since Bao Shisong had considered it, it meant that he still cared about the money. I can arrange for someone to pay now, Gu Qia said. Obviously, Su Yin could not have brought so much money with him, but if he needed it, she would not be stingy. Ha ha ha, although this money is worth the risk, let me think about it. Bao Shisong hung up the phone after he finished speaking, not giving Gu Qia any chance to continue bargaining. Hearing the call end, Su Yun's heart sank even more. He couldn't just sit and wait for death. If that munitions ship was taking Gu Qia's ship's business on the same sea route, it shouldn't be too far away. Immediately, Su Yun proposed to get off the ship and take the initiative to look for it. Are you crazy? Gu Qia rejected Su Yun's request without hesitation. Even if I know his location, I can't let you go alone. You won't even have a chance to board the ship before being blasted away. He's like me, a munitions ship. He doesn't lack any mercenary weapons or equipment. I won't let you take this risk. But I have a reason to take this risk. Su Yun's answer was firm. Gu Qia frowned. Give me some time. Let me help you think of a way. Don't worry, there's still a long way to go before we reach Dongying. If you can't solve it after tonight, I'll take a ship to look for it myself. Although Su Yun doubted that Gu Qia could do anything, he could not help but be grateful for everything she had done for him. To be honest, if it were not for Gu Qia, Su Yun would not know what to do now. The old people often said that one more friend means one more path. This was not wrong at all. In the end, Su Yun nodded with difficulty. Gu Qia had done her best. He had no reason not to trust her this time. After Gu Qia got Su Yun's approval, she immediately called many people. Sometimes she spoke in Chinese, sometimes she spoke in English, but Su Yun could understand her. Although Gu Qia's method was unscrupulous, Su Yun had to admit that perhaps it was the only way. She was arranging for people to kidnap Bao Shisong's wife and son. This kind of thing was nothing to the underground forces in Canada. Although Su Yun could not bear to do it, he did not stop Gu Qia's actions. He, who had been forced into a desperate situation, could not think of a better solution. This was the only way to solve this matter. Gu Qia's plan had been going on. Whenever she thought of someone who could help her, she would call them. After arranging things, she would call them every once in a while to ask about the results. Su Yun could not help at all. He could only sit on the sofa alone and drink champagne. He really wished he had some strong alcohol now. Gu Qia seemed to be able to read Su Yun's mind. Just as Su Yun was thinking about this matter, she took out a bottle of whiskey from the wine cabinet and placed it in front of Su Yun while making a phone call. She also pointed to her own glass and motioned for Su Yun to pour her a glass. Su Yun looked at Gu Qia gratefully and immediately poured her a glass of wine. Gu Qia continued to walk back and forth in the room with the glass in her hand, answering the phone. About an hour later, the people she had arranged to go out finally came back with good news. Because of the time difference, it was still daytime in Canada. It was now after school. The people in the big circle had followed Bao Shisong's son, who was in junior high school. Bao Shisong's son was obviously acting like a young master. There were several bodyguards hired by his father around him, but it was meaningless. Under Gu Qia's order, dozens of men who had been arranged to go out swarmed up. Not to mention those bodyguards, even a dozen more would not be able to hold them off. 10 minutes later, Gu Qia got a reply. Bao Shisong's son had been taken away by them. The bodyguards were not killed, but they would probably be hospitalized for half a month. Gu Qia's mouth raised a smile. With the trump card in hand, She only needed to wait for Bao Shisong to take the initiative to contact her. In order to celebrate the victory, she took the initiative to touch Su Yun's glass and then drank it up. Chapter 935. Gu Qia didn't expect Su Yun to say that, but it was understandable. After all, the girl Su Yun was looking for was on Bao Shisong's arms merchant ship. Obviously, Bao Shisong knew that those Dongying people didn't do anything good, but he wasn't kind enough to think about the innocent child. She had to admit that Su Yun was different from those cold-blooded people in the underground world. He was hot-blooded. If Gu Qia told Su Yun what she was thinking, Su Yun would definitely answer her. It wasn't surprising that people who were born in the Huaxia army were hot-blooded. "Don't worry, I'm not that kind of vicious woman," Gu Qia said. "I just want Bao Shisong to cooperate obediently. No matter how many despicable things he did to the Big Circle, the people in the Big Circle never thought of doing anything to his son. We're all making a living on the same path. Some things are just rules of nature." "Thank you." Su Yun raised his glass to Gu Qia again. "Sometimes I feel that God is very unfair to me, but the goddess of luck seems to like to care for me. It's my fortune to know you." Gu Qia was very happy to hear Su Yun say that. She also felt that she was very lucky. When Su Yun first came to her ship, he seemed to have unintentionally broken her inner peace. Ever since Gu Qia joined the Big Circle and took over the family business, she felt that she was becoming less and less like a woman. Because all the men she usually interacted with were related to the Big Circle, there had never been an ordinary person who could integrate into her life. However, Su Yun's appearance made her realize that there were more daring men outside her circle. It was also because of this change that Gu Qia realized that she was still a woman. "I believe Bao Shisong will soon know what happened to his family." Gu Qia changed the topic. She didn't know how to continue Su Yun's words. "Although Canada is big, our circle is basically a palm-sized place in Vancouver. In a while he will call to compromise." Su Yun believed in this. It was natural for people to care about their own flesh and blood. They would do anything for their children. No matter how despicable Bao Shisong was, she believed that he would not abandon his own son. Gu Qia's judgment was very accurate. Just half an hour later, Bao Shisong called them back. Bao Shisong's first sentence was straight to the point. "Miss Gu, there's a saying that goes, 'Don't implicate your wife and children.' Don't tell me you don't even understand such a simple principle?" "I'm sorry, I don't really understand what you're talking about," Gu Qia said casually. She knew that the more she didn't care, the more flustered Bao Shisong would be. Okay, I apologize to you. I only ask that you don't let anyone hurt my son." Bao Shisong tried his best to control his impulse. He suppressed the flame in his heart that was about to explode at any time and said calmly, "Miss Gu, I know you. You are not a despicable person who would do such a despicable thing. Let's talk about it, okay?" Gu Qia smiled slightly and even flattered herself. "Bao Shisong, you are measuring the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. I just asked my subordinates to invite your son to relax for a few days and visit Disneyland to cultivate his character. I really don't mean anything else. I think you must have misunderstood me." "Misunderstood my ass." Although Bao Shisong thought so in his heart, he didn't dare to say it out loud. He could only smile and say, "I didn't expect Miss Gu to be so good to my son. I am really grateful. It's just that his health is not good, and he has to take medicine on time every day. Miss Gu, I appreciate your kindness. You can ask someone to send him back first. We can talk about the rest." "Let's talk about things first." Gu Qia went straight to the point. "Where is your boat? If you are willing to cooperate, I can guarantee that your son won't be thrown out of the roller coaster. There are many rides in the amusement park. The safety belt is a very important detail." Bao Shisong was so angry that he was trembling. Gu Qia's words were very clear. She was basically telling him, "If you don't cooperate, you can wait to go home and collect your son's corpse." Su Yun was shocked by Gu Qia's words. Once a woman played tricks, it was definitely not something that a man could withstand. Gu Qia's threat would definitely make Bao Shisong shiver from his toes to the tip of his hair. "Okay, I will cooperate," Bao Shisong said. "But I won't make any deals with you on the high seas. I know that you care about the little girl. I will find a way to bring her back to Canada. If I don't see my son, I will never let her go. Miss Gu, this is my last bargaining chip. I know it very well. Bao Shursong, it will take at least 10 days to return to Canada. Aren't you worried about your son? Gu Chia frowned. She really didn't expect this guy to do this. Bao Shursong held his bargaining chip tightly and insisted. I am worried, but I know that you are also worried about this little girl. I hope that everyone can calm down. Time is not a problem. I will take care of this little girl like I take care of my own son. Similarly, I also hope. I know. As long as you don't hurt her, my people will never hurt your son. Gu Chia's answer was resolute and decisive. Hearing that he had to go to Canada to make this deal, Suyin didn't have that much patience. He took the phone from Gu Chia's hand and said bluntly, those 4 Japanese are not as simple as you think. You'd better not take the risk. Now you are gambling with your son's life. Bao Shursong sighed helplessly. I have no choice. You are the one who dragged my son into this. I know what kind of people those 4 Japanese are, but you have to know that on my ship, everything they eat and drink is arranged by me. I promise you that I'll bring the little girl back to Canada in one piece, so you have to promise me that you won't make things difficult for my son. At this point, Suyin had no choice. He could only agree to Bao Shursong's request. Okay, I hope you will do as you say. I won't go back on my words. Bao Shursong promised heavily. Suyin promised Bao Shursong, which meant that he had to go to Canada with the ship to see Guagua. This was a very long time for him. Although he didn't want to, there was nothing he could do. However, Gu Chia was very satisfied with this deal. She traveled the Pacific Ocean once a month to the Asian continent to make a deal. Although there were many mercenaries on the ship every time, she was always alone and lonely. She had no interest in talking to those mercenaries and listening to their vulgar words. This return trip was a new experience for her, because Su Yin was accompanying her on the return trip. This was even good news for Gu Chia. However, she still suppressed the excitement in her heart. If Su Yin saw it, it would be a little awkward. After all, Su Yin was still worried. Su Yin called back and explained the current situation to Ruan Qingshuang. Hearing that he was going to cross the Pacific Ocean so far, Ruan Qingshuang couldn't help but worry. She was worried about both Su Yin and Guagua. She was afraid that she would have trouble sleeping and eating during this period. Chapter 936. Su Yin had never experienced crossing the Pacific Ocean by boat. If he had nothing else to do, he would have liked to experience the feeling of experiencing all kinds of storms along the way. After all, not many people in the world had the opportunity to experience such a journey. If he was a poet, he might have stood on the deck and written 2 sentences that would be remembered for eternity. But Su Yin was not in the mood to experience it now. This journey may feel very long, but at least I'll chat with you and drink with you. Gu Chia could see Su Yin's melancholy and sat beside him with a smile. Yes, she had long been tired of this life of drifting on the sea. Ever since she took over the family business, she spent at least 25 days a month in the Pacific Ocean. Su Yin took a sip of wine and said thank you softly. Compared to the despair before, this was much better. At least he saw hope. As long as he crossed the world's first ocean, he could bring Guagua back to his side. Not to mention 10 days, even if it was 20 or 30 days, he would still wait. I know you're worried that Bao Shursong can't handle those Japanese, Gu Chia said. Gu Chia said. But I still trust him on this point. He is a person who will do anything to achieve his goals. His son is in danger. No matter how despicable he is, he will settle this matter. Don't worry. Su Yin was grateful for Gu Chia's comfort, but other than this, he was also worried about the storm on the sea. It was said that water and fire were merciless. In the face of such a vast ocean, even the world's largest aircraft carrier was only a small boat, let alone an arms merchant ship. Thinking of this, Su Yin could not help but feel that he was a little pretentious. There were people who could sail around the world on a single boat, let alone so many experienced navigators. I'm a little tired. Su Yin wanted to give Gu Chia a room to rest. Gu Chia pointed to her bed. Then go rest for a while. Then you. Why, are you afraid that I'll eat you? Gu Chia said. You didn't tell me in advance that you were coming. I'll go next door and help you clean up an empty room. Don't think of me as an open-minded person. I'm not open-minded enough to let you stay in my room overnight. Soo-yun smiled embarrassedly. I'll clean it up myself. How could I trouble you? Don't be so courteous with me. Guchiya said. Although I don't know what you have experienced during this period of time, I can see that you are indeed tired and really need a good rest. Just stay here and sleep for a while. In a while, my subordinates will have a wrestling competition on the deck before going to bed. I hope you can give them some pointers. Since the other party had already put it this way, Soo-yun was too embarrassed to refuse and obediently went to sleep for a while. He really needed to close his eyes and rest for a while. It was just that Soo-yun didn't expect him to sleep so peacefully. He wasn't affected by the wrestling competition on the deck, and Guchiya didn't wake him up. When Soo-yun opened his eyes, the sun had already risen, and Guchiya was comfortably nestled on the sofa. The corners of her mouth were slightly raised, and he didn't know what beautiful things she was dreaming of. Soo-yun was afraid of disturbing her, so he got out of bed very carefully and went to wash up. He fell asleep too quickly last night and didn't even wash his face. Perhaps it was because of the alcohol and the boat ride that Soo-yun slept so soundly. When Soo-yun came out of the bathroom, Guchiya was already rubbing her sleepy eyes and standing in front of him. How did you sleep last night? I'm sorry. I really didn't mean to fall asleep. Soo-yun felt very sorry. He slept on Guchiya's bed on her ship and caused her to sleep on the sofa. As a guest, he had to admit that he had gone too far. It's okay. I'm used to sleeping on the sofa. Even if you weren't here, sometimes I would curl up on the sofa and sleep for a night. It felt different. Guchiya also went to wash up. There was a lot of microwavable food in the fridge. Guchiya took it out and heated it directly. A sumptuous breakfast was placed in front of Soo-yun. At this time, Soo-yun suddenly realized a problem. I remember that the last time I came, there was a big guy beside you. Already forget it, let's not talk about it. Guchiya interrupted Soo-yun's words, but she didn't finish her sentence. It was obvious that mentioning this matter made her feel very depressed. Soo-yun realized that he had said something wrong. Alas, the ignorant are innocent. Perhaps that loyal big guy had already met with some misfortune. I'm sorry. It's nothing. Guchiya said. Different people have their own way of living in this life. But in the end, no one can escape the end of fate. Everyone's ending is the same, no matter whether they are rich or poor, no matter whether they have a long or short life. No one can escape death. People who could say this were usually people who had experienced too many things of birth, old age, illness, and death. Soo-yun didn't answer. He knew very well that Guchiya didn't need his clumsy comfort. In this kind of thing, this young girl was even more open-minded than him. After breakfast, Guchiya led Soo-yun to the deck to feel the sea breeze and enjoy the sea view. The blue sea and sky, this kind of boundless grandeur could only be found in the ocean. Soo-yun felt his own insignificance while sighing with emotion at the greatness of the world. When the mercenaries saw the two of them come out, they all had a meaningful smile on their faces. They all knew that this guy who boarded the ship last night had really made their boss very busy. In the end, Soo-yun even slept in their boss's room. Soo-yun was no stranger to them. This was the second time he had come to their ship. Mercenary Captain Paul heard that a few guys were vulgarly talking about Soo-yun sleeping in Guchiya's room last night. He stepped forward and gave each of them a kick. It was fine to secretly talk about this in the dead of night. Now Guchiya was on the deck with Soo-yun, enjoying the sea breeze and talking about love. If she heard it, none of them would have a good time. After a while, Guchiya received a phone call and had to go back to her room to do some research. Soo-yun stayed on the deck alone. Seeing their boss leave, the mercenaries couldn't stay still. They all gathered around and asked questions. Although Paul was the captain, he also joined in. He didn't forget Lin Gu. He asked Soo-yun if Lin Gu was doing well. Soo-yun nodded and said okay. He felt even worse. Lin Gu was seriously injured because of this matter. Although it was all external injuries and bone injuries, and not particularly serious internal injuries, he would have to lie in bed for a period of time. If his little girlfriend Fangyan knew, she would definitely be heartbroken. A group of mercenaries surrounded Su Yun and chattered for a long time, asking Su Yun to show his skills. A few of them had improved a lot under Lin Jiyi's training. Now they wanted to challenge Lin Jiyi's big brother. A group of men on the deck, besides doing this kind of thing, what else could they do? They didn't dare to think about women. The boss was the only woman on the ship. They wouldn't dare to touch her even if they were beaten to death. Chapter 937. The last time Su Yun came to this ship, he was just a weak person who had his inner chi crippled, so he didn't show anyone his strength. Just Lin Gu alone was enough to shake this group of mercenaries upside down, and they were full of admiration. And Su Yun, this mysterious big brother, didn't make a move at that time, but this group of mercenaries had already guessed that he was a godly guy. When someone suggested this, Paul didn't stop it because he, like the other mercenaries, wanted to see if this godly guy was really as godly as they guessed. After all, the mercenary circle was a circle that advocated strength. In this circle, whoever's fist was harder would have a higher status. Paul was able to become the leader of this group of mercenaries, maybe not because of how strong his leadership ability was, but his individual combat quality was definitely the best in this group of people. Su Yun was invited to the center of the deck, and immediately there was a guy who couldn't help but stand up and couldn't wait to challenge him. Mercenaries lived a life of bloodshed. They were fearless and were all brave. Su Yun only hooked his finger at the black man who stood up to challenge him, indicating that he could make a move at any time. And in the mercenary's ears he said in a very arrogant tone, "I'll give you a suggestion. It's best if you all come together. Otherwise there's really no chance of winning." These words were quite stimulating for the mercenaries, at least they didn't think so. Some of them had experienced the baptism of the war in Afghanistan. Some had shed blood in Iraq, and some had been immersed in the chaos of war in the Middle East for almost half of their lives. In short, no one was a coward. They were all brave warriors who survived the war. After receiving Su Yun's public provocation, the black man who was rubbing his hands roared, and his whole body was like a swift and agile black bear as he pounced on Su Yun. Su Yun didn't even try to dodge the gigantic creature that trained its muscles for more than 10 hours a day. Instead, he grabbed the fist that was as black as a hammer, and used it as a leverage to throw the gigantic creature over his head, smashing it into the crowd of mercenaries that were watching from the opposite side. Because Blackie had used too much force, the mercenaries who weren't prepared were knocked to the ground. Only when their butts were swollen did they realize what had happened. "Like I said, you should come at me together." A confident smile still hung on Su Yun's face. How could this group of people who lived on the edge of a blade withstand such provocation? Even though they had already realized that they were no match for Su Yun, they still swarmed forward, imagining that they would have a chance to flip him to the ground. At that time, they would see how arrogant he would be. Mercenaries were mercenaries after all. They were at least 10 times stronger than street thugs. However, Su Yun was not the Su Yun from before. He had regained the strength of the supreme power realm. It only took 10 minutes for the deck to be covered with people. Of course, these people were Gu Qia's subordinates after all. Su Yun would never cripple or break them. He would only use the right amount of strength to make these young men's muscles sore for a few days. Gu Qia finished her work and walked out of the room to the deck. She was somewhat surprised to see the scene of wailing everywhere. Then, she read the meaning in the eyes of her subordinates. It was not hatred but awe. It seemed that she had missed a good show. It was not a bad thing for Su Yun to give them a good lesson. At least this group of people who were usually too self-righteous realized that there were many people who were stronger than them in this world. It was not just because they had some muscles that they could be insufferably arrogant. "I think you should all pay some tuition." Gu Qia clapped her hands, motioning for Su Yun's defeated subordinates to stand up. "Don't be so delicate. Su Yun has already shown mercy. What else do you want? Put a few Yunnan Baiyao on your bed for a week?" This was what Gu Qia wanted to see. The last time she met Su Yun, it was not the first time she met him. As early as a few years ago, she knew of Su Yun's existence. It was just that Su Yun did not know of her. At that time, the Chinese in Canada were not doing well. The Chinese community was being strongly rejected by the Dark Angels in Canada. The Chinese in the 3 major cities of Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal were all under different degrees of threat. The reputation of the Great Circle was at stake. At that time, the Indian gang suddenly appeared and disrupted the order. Originally, the Indian gang wanted to use the Dark Angels to suppress the Great Circle and destroy the Great Circle in one fell swoop, so that their status in Canada would be higher than the Chinese. However, the leader of the Indian gang was stupid enough to provoke the Dark Angels. When the Dark Angels turned their attention to the Indian gang, the Great Circle finally had a breather. Of course, the Great Circle did not kick them when they were down. Instead, they returned good for evil and extended their fists to help the Indian gang. As a result, the Indian gang was not completely destroyed by the Dark Angels. The people of the Great Circle knew very well that if the Dark Angels destroyed the Indian gang, they would be the next unlucky ones. They needed to unite their forces to resist the suppression of the Dark Angels. Although the Indian gang owed the Great Circle such a big favor, they did not appreciate it. However, this was not important. The Dark Angels realized that it was difficult for them to deal with two major forces from Asia at the same time, so they gave up. During this period of time, because of the turmoil, the Gu family was worried that Gu Chia would be in danger. They asked her to temporarily leave her school in Toronto and go to the United States to hide. After all, the Dark Angels would not be so bold as to go to the United States and cause trouble. It was during her time in the United States that Gu Chia met Su Yun. She liked to look for all kinds of novel websites to read news that was unknown to others. When she arrived in the United States, she could not stay idle. Using her computer skills, she quickly entered some websites that only insiders could access. On the website of the U.S. Special Forces, she saw a group of pictures of Chinese people. The leader left a deep impression on her. He was wearing a high-spirited camouflage uniform. His face was smeared with black and green curly paint, his chiseled cheeks, and a pair of piercingly cold eyes like lightning. This person was Su Yun. During that period of time, Gu Chia would always go to the website to look at this group of pictures. Therefore, even if Su Yun's face was no longer covered in black and green curly paint, she still recognized him at a glance because that gaze was unique in the world. She remembered very clearly that the U.S. Special Forces had already defined the group under that group of photos as one of the most dangerous special forces in the world. And this leader also had a vague introduction. Male, age unknown, known as Yanlong, captain and instructor of the Dragon Brigade, Dragon Fury team of Huaxia, individual combat effectiveness unknown, leadership combat ability 5 stars. All of this was a little secret buried deep in Gu Chia's heart. She would never mention it to anyone. Even after she really met Su Yun, she was 100% sure that he was that Yanlong. She never mentioned that she had hacked into the U.S. Special Forces website. Although the Great Circle was not as miserable as it was a few years ago and had occupied a place in Vancouver and Toronto, it had not gotten rid of the pressure of the Dark Angels in a practical sense. After Gu Chia saw Su Yun, she seemed to see a chance for the Great Circle to return to glory. If Su Yun was willing to help her, then all the Chinese in Canada would have a higher status than they had now. Chapter 938. Today Su Yun finally showed his strength. How could Gu Chia not be excited in her heart? It was just that after a year of experience, she was no longer the little girl with no shrewdness. She would not write her excitement on her face easily. She had already learned to use her body to hide her inner world. Mr. Su, I have a presumptuous request. Paul covered his lower abdomen with a trace of pain on his face. Obviously, he also participated in this group fight, and also suffered a big loss from Su Yun. I know that what you just used is the mystery of Huaxia's Tai Chi. Can you teach us this mystery? We will be very grateful. Since the captain said so, the others also stood up to express their desire for knowledge. For this group of boors, this was a rare opportunity in a lifetime. The sea route back to Canada would take so many days. If they could get Su Yun's guidance in these days, it would be useful for a lifetime for them. Looking at Paul and those pairs of pleading and expectant eyes, Su Yun really did not know how to refuse. Fortunately, these people were all Gu Chia's people. If he could teach them something, it could be considered as returning Gu Chia's favor. Su Yun looked back at Gu Chia. Gu Chia had no intention of objecting at all. Instead, she also looked at Su Yin with the same expectant eyes. She would never ask Su Yin to do anything for no reason, but she also hoped that Su Yin could help her group of people a little. The last time Lin Gu was with this group of boors for only more than a day, this group of guys had already benefited a lot. If Su Yin personally taught them a thing or two, perhaps their level would be directly raised to a higher level. Seeing Gu Qia's expectant eyes, how could Su Yin have the nerve to refuse? He immediately agreed to Paul's request. Okay, it's just that being my disciple is not so easy. The black man who was thrown out by Su Yin at the beginning was half a Huaxia. After hearing Su Yin's agreement, he immediately told the rules he knew about the Huaxia apprenticeship rules. This group of boors who were usually careless actually took it seriously after hearing it. Paul immediately arranged for people to prepare tea. Su Yin sat on a chair surrounded by people. Led by Paul, more than 30 mercenaries came forward one by one to serve tea to Su Yin and acknowledge him as their master. At first, Su Yin could still drink it in one gulp, but later on he just wiped it with his lips, indicating that it was fine as long as he realized it. If he drank more than 30 cups of tea in one go, his bladder might not be able to handle it. Even so, after the apprenticeship ceremony ended, Su Yin ran to the toilet several times to relieve his urination. If all the nations in the world were put together, Huaxia was far from advocating martial arts as many nations in Europe and America. For example, the United States was a nation of horses and guns. The foundation of martial arts had been passed down to this day. This was also the reason why they did not restrict guns. Huaxia was more influenced by Confucianism and Taoism. They liked to convince people with virtue and rule with reason. But even so, Huaxia's martial arts were the most mysterious and threatening in the world. Since the legendary Bruce Lee created the word Kung Fu in the world, no one dared to look down on the martial arts strength of Huaxia people. In the era when Kung Fu was popular all over the world, foreigners could not help but believe that Huaxia people knew Kung Fu when they saw them. Even Huaxia people who lived abroad became people that even robbers did not dare to provoke. As time passed, everyone began to realize that not all Huaxia people knew Kung Fu. There were only a few. Legendary figures like Bruce Lee were even rarer. And today, Su Yin wanted to tell them that Huaxia's seemingly forgotten ancient martial arts were not lost. To become an expert in ancient martial arts, it was not only possible to train the body, but also to practice qi. Although this group of reckless mercenaries wanted to learn the skill of using four tails to defeat 1,000 caddies, if they could not even do the basic qi practice, how could they play tai chi? This logic was the same as wanting to learn to run before learning to walk. Paul, like the other mercenaries, was filled with great curiosity about everything Su Yin asked them to do. They did not understand the meaning of sitting cross-legged and breathing according to Su Yin's instructions. It was like a woman doing yoga. It was completely beyond their expectations. They believe that it requires more intense physical training than just sitting here and breathing in and out. Because of this idea, soon more than half of the people could not sit still. They could not understand that breathing was the same as practicing Kung Fu. Su Yin did not blame them for their ignorance. It could only be said that the cultural difference was too big. Breathing was something that could not be forced. Although those who could not sit still felt uncomfortable, they did not dare to stand up and disrespect Su Yin. They could only squat and suffer. Of course, there were also those who were serious. Paul was one of them. Although he doubted this training method, he still humbly followed Su Yin's instructions and breathed in and out, trying to feel his so-called tendons and blood flow. However, this was too difficult for beginners. Gu Qia watched with great interest as her subordinates were trained into quiet virgins by Su Yin. She could not help but laugh. She remembered that since the first day she boarded this ship had not been so quiet. When the merchant ship sailed past Dongying, Gu Qia still let the 4 beaten Dongying people go. Su Yin also agreed with her. It was not that Su Yin was kind, but Su Yin felt that after these bastards went back, they might dig up some valuable antiques. There were many rich people in Huaxia. It was better to buy them all back. After letting the 4 Dongying people go, Su Yin could not help but worry. Bao Song had not contacted them. He did not know what the situation was now. Did Bao Song manage to deal with Muto Ichiro? Or was Muto Ichiro someone he could not handle? Had he already brought Guogwa back to Dongying? Suyin decided not to wait anymore. He suggested to Gu Qia that she should contact Bao Shisong. Just as Gu Qia was about to dial the number, Bao Shisong's call came. Gu Qia could not help but show the caller ID to Suyin. Then she calmly picked up the phone and said bluntly, "How is it going?" Bao Shisong did not want to waste time on pleasantries. He simply replied, "Don't worry. I will take good care of the little girl. You must also promise me that you will let your people take good care of my son." "That's not a problem," Gu Qia said. "As long as the girl is safe, your son will be safe." Hearing this, Suyin finally breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what, Guogwa's danger was resolved. However, he still had doubts in his heart. How did Bao Shisong solve Muto Ichiro's problem? When Suyin raised this question, Bao Shisong just smiled coldly. With some bewitching soup in the wine and food, those Dongying people slept like dead pigs. I have already thrown them into the sea to feed the sharks. This is my free gift to you. Don't thank me. Just give my son more good food to eat. As long as you don't make things difficult for him, I can do anything. Chapter 939. When the golden light tore the sea surface in the east bit by bit. It was already the 5th day that Su Yun was on Gu Qia's arms merchant ship. Through the new deal between Gu Qia and Bao Shisong, Su Yun could talk to Guogwa for 10 minutes every day. Of course, the condition was that Bao Shisong could also talk to his son for 10 minutes. This was the only solution to ensure the safety of their respective children. Guogwa was nervous at the beginning, but she slowly accepted the reality. As early as a year ago, she had experienced a great change in her family. She couldn't treat her like an ordinary child. Although she was young and would cry, she wouldn't just cry all the time. Since Suyin talked to Guogwa, Guogwa was much calmer. She knew that there was another arms merchant ship following her not far away, and Suyin was on that ship. They had found a way to save her, but she needed to wait a few more days until they arrived in Canada. From that day on, Guogwa tried to be more patient. Indeed, she did it. Even Suyin wasn't as patient as her. In order to let Guogwa instruct his men to treat his son better, Bao Shisong served them with delicacies every day. Guogwa's little life was very comfortable. In order to make up for the hurt Guogwa's heart, Suyin also promised her that when they arrived in Canada, he would take her anywhere she wanted to go. Even if she wanted to go to Manhattan in the United States to watch the sunset, he would satisfy her. After saying this, Suyin realized that they couldn't get a visa at all. If they really wanted to go to the United States, they could only smuggle across the border. However, Gu Qia must have a way anyway. Vancouver was a coastal city in the lowland plains of British Columbia, Canada. It was the largest city in Western Canada. Next to it was Seattle, the largest city in the northwest of the United States. It wasn't difficult for him to smuggle over. It was said that many Huaxia went to Seattle to give birth to their children, so that their children could be registered as American citizens. Thinking of this, Suyin thought of something else. Vancouver's film production was well developed. It was the third largest production center in North America after Los Angeles and New York. It was known as the Hollywood of the North. Perhaps he could learn something along the way. It seemed that his trip across the ocean was not in vain. Suyin had a good impression of this city, which was ranked among the best cities in the world. Guogwa also had a good impression of this place. Being sensible, she did not ask for Suyin to bring her to the United States, where she could only smuggle herself. She only said that since she was already here, she had to visit the famous Stanley Park, Queen Elizabeth Park, and of course, the world's longest suspension bridge that crossed Bullard Bay and connected downtown Vancouver, the Lions Gate Bridge. Suyin agreed to all of Guogwa's conditions. Before hanging up the phone, Suyin also told her to think of other places she wanted to go. She would tell him when he called the next day. Suyin said this because he hoped that Guogwa would not be too lonely. A child crossing the Pacific Ocean on a group of strangers' boat was not something an adult could bear. This was why even Suyin couldn't help but admire Guogwa. She really wasn't an ordinary kind of strong person. Even though she would sometimes say some petrifying words, she was still a child after all. "How is it? Is Guogwa okay?" After Su Yin hung up the phone, Guchia handed him a bottle of beer. After talking with Su Yin these days, she had a general understanding of Guogua. She even wanted to meet this weird little girl. Su Yin took the beer and took a sip. Well, she's good. Her ability to adapt is even better than mine. There were very few things to do on the boat every day, so drinking was almost a daily homework for all the mercenaries. Whether it was vodka or whiskey, after drinking, they always had to rinse their mouths with a few bottles of beer. During the 5 days on the boat, Su Yin had obviously turned drinking into a daily homework. Of course, he would not drink with the mercenaries on the deck. After all, Guchia had a rule for the mercenaries. There were more than 30 people, and they could only drink 10 bottles of vodka or whiskey every day, followed by a bottle of beer for each person. She was not worried that they would drink too much and cause trouble, but she was worried that if they drank too much, they would meet people who would cause trouble. The captain, first mate, and second mate were more pitiful. Guchia never allowed them to drink. After all, the Pacific Ocean was such a long journey that they needed to be 100% clear-headed to safely cross it. The only ones who didn't lack alcohol were the cooks. Not only were they in charge of food, but they were also in charge of alcohol. Therefore, 3 to 5 cooks would occasionally wait until the dead of the night to secretly open 2 bottles of vodka and have a midnight snack. As for them, Guchia turned a blind eye. Anyway, her chef was already fat enough and wouldn't be of much help if they met with trouble. In the 5 days, Su Yin got to know almost everyone on the boat. Everyone was polite to him. Even if it was not for Guchia's face, no one dared to provoke this fierce person who could single-handedly take on the entire mercenary team. The story of Su Yin being able to single-handedly overturn the entire mercenary team became a hot topic on the boat. Every time a mercenary used vulgar and provocative language to speak rudely to the fat cook would use a sentence. If you have the ability, go and do whatever you want to Mr. Su to refute. Putting aside other matters, Su Yin had been living a carefree life for the past few days. On the ship, he had experienced the tranquility of a cloudless sea, as well as a sudden storm in the middle of the night. These were all things that he had never experienced before. To anyone, experience and tempering were priceless treasures. While feeling emotional, Su Yin secretly used his phone to write a few poems. He was going to edit it slightly when he returned to Huaxia and post it on Tang Yuan's website. Maybe he could get to know many female fans who adored him. Hee. Thinking about it, Su Yin could not help but raise the corner of his mouth and reveal a faint smile. What good things are you thinking about? Share with me? Guchia also held a bottle of beer. Like the other men on the boat, she drank directly from the mouth of the bottle. She was definitely not the so-called virtuous lady. A virtuous lady would definitely not be able to do such a family business. However, although she was not virtuous and did not care about trifles most of the time, it did not affect her temperament and charm at all. Guchia was such a girl. If she were to be a virtuous lady, she would be very scary. Nothing. I just feel that I am very lucky. Su Yin. I will never forget this journey in my life. It is really important to me. Ahem, you better make it clear. Don't let me misunderstand that you are confessing to me in a disguised way. Guchia joked. She knew that the people on the boat and the mercenaries were talking about the joke between her and Su Yin, but she did not mind. She was even a little happy. Most of the time, she would make jokes about the two of them. Chapter 940. When the sky was clear, the blue ocean looked so peaceful, but when it started to stir up trouble, it was terrifying and unsettling. During the 11 days of sailing across the ocean, Su Yin had experienced 2 big storms. Of course, Guchia did not take the relatively big one seriously, although the merchant ship was almost overturned. The captain said that they were close to the north of Vancouver Island. If they continued forward, they would officially enter the sea northeast of Port Hardy. Guchia quickly made a few phone calls and arranged for people to contact them. If they wanted to go back smoothly, they would need to get a pass. Guchia soon got a response, and then ordered the captain to continue forward. They passed Port Hardy without any problems and sailed southeast along the sea route. After passing by Alt Bay, the merchant ship sailed into the Johnstone Strait, then south into the Strait of Georgia. They passed by Courtney, Powell River, and Nanaimo, then east to the estuary of the Fraser River. Soo-Yun knew that Richmond was on the north bank of the Fraser River. If they went further north, they would pass by the Vancouver International Airport. After that, they would reach the city center of Vancouver. Their ship stopped at Steveston. Gu Chia stretched and smiled at Soo-Yun. We're finally here. When you get off the ship later, you'll definitely feel that everything is shaky. You'll need a few hours to get used to it. After a few hours, your legs won't feel like jelly anymore. Soo-Yun did not feel like his legs were jelly. He was now worried about Guagua. Since their ship had arrived, Bao Shursong's ship should have arrived as well. However, he looked around and saw that they were the only merchant ship docked at the dock. The mercenaries on Gu Chia's ship transported the US dollars they had earned and handed them over to the people who came to pick them up. They were then taken away in a large bulletproof commercial van. Everyone on the ship walked to the dry land, greedily enjoying the dry sun and air. Some of the mercenaries couldn't wait to light up a cigarette and smoke. Because Gu Chia was very strict with them and didn't allow them to smoke on the ship, these guys who hadn't smelled smoke for nearly 4 weeks couldn't stand it anymore. When they returned, they would definitely rush to Vancouver's red light district to vent their pent-up anger after receiving the bonus for this mission. Where is Bao Shursong's ship? Soo-Yun's first question after disembarking was about Guagua. Gu Chia smiled. I know you will be worried about this. Don't worry. Bao Shursong's boat wouldn't dare to stop at the shore of Steveston. This is the territory of the Great Circle. Bao Shursong now has the support of the Dark Angel, so he can definitely drive directly into English Bay. Maybe he's already in downtown Vancouver. Are we going over now? Soo-Yun nodded. He soon understood that Bao Shursong and the Great Circle were at odds. They wouldn't stop at the same place. Gu Chia nodded. Well, I'll take you to pick up Bao Shursong's son now. Then we'll go to exchange for Guagua. Soo-Yun's heart finally relaxed. But so far he still doubted whether Bao Shursong's drug could really bury Muto Ichiro at the bottom of the sea. If Muto Ichiro died, it would be a good thing for Soo-Yun. It would solve a lot of his problems. But if Muto Ichiro didn't die, Soo-Yun wouldn't be careless again. He really hoped that when Bao Shursong pushed Muto Ichiro into the sea, he would put a knife on his neck just in case. The driver was already waiting for Gu Chia. It could be seen that Gu Chia was still very popular in the Great Circle. Most people respected her not because of her father, but because of Gu Chia's ability. Take me to see White Wolf. After Gu Chia and Soo-Yun got in the car, she immediately ordered the driver to send her and Soo-Yun to the destination. The driver didn't say much. He just nodded and quickly took Gu Chia to White Wolf's second-hand car market. Here, most people in the Great Circle had their own businesses. For example, White Wolf's original name was Bai Lang. Maybe his mother gave birth to him at the seaside, so she gave him such a poetic name. Later on, because this fellow was decisive, ruthless, and ruthless, he was gradually called the White Wolf by others. Over time he got used to it. Anyway, it was the same pronunciation. Gu Chia dialed Bao Shursong's phone in the car. She wanted to confirm the next step with him. However, what Gu Chia didn't expect was that Bao Shursong seemed to change into a different person when he returned to Canada. His arrogant attitude increased by 100 times. Miss Gu, I thought you weren't going to contact me. If you have something to say it quickly. I don't like to beat around the bush. Do I still need to say it? Gu Chia frowned impatiently. Say it. Where do you want to meet? Bao Shursong snorted coldly. Don't forget that I still have the little girl you want. Miss Gu, even Master Gu didn't talk to me as angrily as you. Then don't forget that I still have your son. Gu Chia really suspected that Bao Shursong had taken the wrong medicine. My son? Bao Shursong suddenly raised his head and laughed. Miss Gu, if I had known that my son was in White Wolf's hands, I wouldn't have needed to lower myself to you all the way. Let me tell you, my son is in my hands. You don't have any bargaining chips to show off with me. Tell that guy, if he wants the girl, he'll have to prepare the $10 million I said before. Otherwise, let him wait to collect his corpse. I'll give him 24 hours to prepare. I'll contact you again tomorrow afternoon at this time. After saying that, Bao Shursong hung up the phone angrily before Gu Chia could react. Gu Qia's mind instantly went blank. Lost the hostage? Of course, Su Yun heard the conversation between the two. It was really King troublesome. Fortunately, this guy only wanted money and wouldn't hurt people easily. Gu Qia didn't know what to do for a moment. She looked at Su Yun pleadingly, hoping that Su Yun would show her the right way. Gu Qia was the one who helped in this matter, so how could Su Yun still have the cheek to say anything? Let's continue to take a look at the white wolf you mentioned. Only when we know what happened will we be able to feel at ease. Gu Qia nodded. That's right. Her mind was in a mess. When they arrived at White Wolf's second-hand car market, the market was already surrounded by onlookers. A patrol car stopped at the market's entrance. Su Yun already saw the police and a few Chinese people who were shot and lying in a pool of blood in the crowd. Gu Qia exclaimed in surprise. White Wolf was one of the people lying in the pool of blood. Miss, I don't think we should go there. We don't want to get into trouble. Seeing this, the driver slowed down the car. Driving there at this time was undoubtedly sending himself to the police for investigation. The police in Canada were different from the police in Huaxia. It took time, effort, and money to select and train a police officer. The police who could pass through the strict selection were very good. The police station would also take the initiative to bear the various consequences caused by the police's mistakes. Unlike in China, most of the official police officers were too old. Young and responsible people like Qin Wan were in the minority. The second and third generations who had sneaked in through connections usually sat in the office drinking tea and chatting. If something happened, it was the temporary police officers who went out for a walk. If something happened, it was the temporary police officers who took the blame. Chapter 941. Stop the car. I have to go over and take a look. Gu Qia was very stubborn on this matter. White Wolf had done a lot for the Dahuan and the Chinese people in Canada. Although people like him often did not leave a good reputation and were rumored to be so fierce, people who really came into contact with White Wolf knew that no matter how fierce he looked on the surface, his heart was full of love for the Chinese people. Ever since Gu Qia knew White Wolf, she had never heard of him doing anything to betray the Dahuan, nor had she heard of him refusing to do anything the Dahuan asked him to do. Even when she asked him to invite Bao Shusong's son to stay for a while, White Wolf did not hesitate at all and agreed immediately. She did not expect that this matter would cause White Wolf to be killed. Thinking of this, Gu Qia could not help but feel regretful and sad. If she did not let White Wolf touch Bao Shusong's son, perhaps Bao Shusong would not be so cruel and ruthless. The conflict between the Chinese people was fierce, but after all, they were of the same origin. She did not expect Bao Shusong to be so ruthless. After getting out of the car, Gu Qia walked straight forward. She walked into the crowd and came to White Wolf's body. The patrol officer saw Gu Qia's strange expression and immediately got up. He quickly took out his ID and showed it to Gu Qia. Then he asked, "Do you know the deceased? What's your relationship? Are there any witnesses? If anyone can provide me with the appearance of the gunman, you can raise the price." Gu Qia ignored the police's question. She stood in the crowd and said to the many onlookers, "Please don't worry. The Dahuan will protect those who provide clues. Miss, please don't disturb our normal work. If you have any special relationship with the deceased, I hope you can cooperate with our work and come with me to the police station to assist in the investigation." The police saw that Gu Qia was strange and obviously knew the deceased and had a certain relationship with him. They immediately prepared to take her back to assist in the investigation. Sorry, she doesn't have time. Su Yun immediately got out of the car and followed Gu Qia. He could not let the police take Gu Qia away. Guogua was still in Bao Shusong's hands. In Canada, he could only solve this matter with Gu Qia's help. After saying that, he said to Gu Qia in Chinese, "Instead of going through the witnesses and the police investigation, why don't we ask Bao Shusong directly? We'd better get out of here quickly, or else we'll be involved in a lot of complicated procedures." The police officer was stunned for a moment, then turned around to look at Su Yun. Perhaps it was because Su Yun had said a bunch of Chinese that he did not understand, so he could not help but be suspicious. "Please show me your ID." Suyin did not come here on a proper visa. How could he show him his ID? I'm sorry, I forgot to bring it. Well, I'll go back and get it for you. Hearing this, the police officer took out the handcuffs on his back. I'm sorry, sir. If you don't have any documents, I have the right to suspect that you are an illegal immigrant. Please come back with me for investigation. It wasn't to the extent of being an illegal immigrant, but Suyin was now 100% an illegal immigrant. If he was arrested by the police, forget about finding Guagua, it would be a big problem whether he could get out of here. This matter was really King aggrieved. Bao Shisong, you untrustworthy villain, don't let me see you, or I'll skin you alive, Suyin cursed angrily in his heart. But at this time, the police officer's handcuffs were about to cuff Suyun's wrists. Although Suyin knew the seriousness of assaulting a police officer, his body still resisted uncontrollably. With a flick of his wrist, he flipped and moved, and the handcuffs that were originally going to cuff his wrists directly cuffed the police officer's hands behind his back. Before the police officer could warn Suyin that his actions were seriously illegal, Suyin knocked the police officer unconscious with his elbow. This series of events happened so quickly that the onlookers did not even realize what had happened. The whole process of Suyin assaulting a police officer only took 2 or 3 seconds. Guqia also woke up from her grief and indignation. When she saw Suyin assaulting a police officer, she knew that he was in trouble. She quickly pulled him back to the car and ordered the driver to leave quickly. In the car, Guqia said somewhat helplessly, "You really shouldn't have attacked a police officer. Assaulting a police officer is not a joke. Maybe you won't be able to hide from the police while you're in Canada. They will definitely do their best to arrest you. But if I'm brought back by them to be investigated and found to be an illegal immigrant, won't I be in jail for 10 days to half a month?" Suyin said. "That won't happen. They will just send you back. Now that you've committed a felony of assaulting a police officer, if you're arrested, you won't be out for 10 days to half a month." Guqia said. "But don't worry, the big circle will do its best to cover you. You'd better not run around on the streets. I'll find a way to use my connections to persuade the higher-ups of the police station to resolve your matter." Suyin was stunned. "You're going to bribe someone? Is that okay?" "There's no cat in the world that doesn't eat fish," Guqia said. "Do you think that the leaders here are clean and only Huaxia's officials know how to abuse their power for personal gain? Officials anywhere in the world know how to abuse their power for personal gain. Otherwise, why do you think our boat returned so smoothly? If we hadn't bribed some people, our boat wouldn't have been able to enter the inner bay." Suyin finally understood. It seemed that anti-corruption work was something that countries all over the world needed to focus on. If there were no more corrupt people who neglected their duties and abused their power for personal gain, there would be no more people who exploited loopholes in the policies to make money illegally. Only then could the world truly become a harmonious society. "Drive faster," Guqia ordered the driver. Suyin wasn't worried about himself. It didn't matter if he was really wanted. After all, his feet were on his legs. He could run as he wanted. He wouldn't be stupid enough to stand there and wait for the Canadian police to catch him. Anyway, he didn't plan to stay here for long. So what if he offended the entire Vancouver police station? The person who killed White Wolf must have something to do with Bao Shisong. As long as we find Bao Shisong, we can find the murderer. Suyin said. "You've done enough for me. I just need some background information on Bao Shisong. I can take care of the rest myself." Suyin was ready to do it himself. The fewer people there were, the easier it would be to deal with things. This principle was very clear. "I'm afraid I can't do anything about it." Guqia shook her head. "Once Bao Shisong returns to Vancouver, he will be protected by the Dark Angel. It will be difficult to find out where he is in a short time. Come home with me first. We need my father's help on this matter." Suyin frowned. Every minute wasted meant another minute of danger for Guagua. But other than Guqia's proposal, what other ideas did he have? At this point, only Dahuan could help him. No one else could. Chapter 942. In this city, and even in this country, The prosperity and strength of the Great Circle seemed to be directly related to the status of the Chinese. As long as one lived in this world, they were all secular. The Great Circle was prosperous, so other aborigines and immigrants would naturally look up to the Chinese. Especially the Indian gang, they would not dare to bully the Huaxia easily. If the Great Circle declined, the Hindustanis of the Hindustanis would look down on the Chinese. Of course, the Indian gang was not called the Indian gang. It was an Indian society, so the Chinese called it that. There was no racial discrimination, but these Indians always thought that their country was richer and stronger than Huaxia, so they felt that their status in Canada was higher. Regarding this point, the people of the Great Circle and other Chinese did not agree, so there was some conflict between the two gangs. However, in the eyes of the Dark Angels, they were all the same. They were all foreign societies, so they had to be inferior to the Dark Angels. This was why the Dark Angels suppressed the Great Circle and the Indian gang. However, since the Great Circle signed a basic agreement of peaceful coexistence with the Indian gang, although the Dark Angels were powerful, they could not eliminate the two foreign societies at the same time. Because of this, the Great Circle developed again. It had a foothold in Vancouver and Canada, so the status of the Huaxia people here had improved. As the leader of the Great Circle, Gu Qia's father, Gu Guolong, was not as strong as Su Yin imagined. On the contrary, he looked a little haggard. The Gu family did not have a magnificent villa. The Gu family's villa might be called a mansion in Huaxia, but in Canada, a country with few people, it could only be regarded as a mid-level villa. Compared to those with golf courses, swimming pools, and even their own docks, it could even be said to be a little shabby. The Great Circle was not a large multinational arms group as Su Yin imagined. It was just a society that united all the Chinese. The members generally had their own businesses. The president of the Great Circle, Gu Guolong, was mainly in the seafood business, and arms were part of his business. This was also a new business that he had been forced to expand by the Dark Angels for many years. In addition to Gu Qia, Gu Guolong had another son, who was Gu Qia's brother, Gu Tianji. Gu Tianji was not Gu Guolong's biological son, but his half-brother's son. To a certain extent, he was just Gu Qia's cousin, and they didn't have the same grandmother. However, his ancestors had already passed away. Gu Tianji's parents had both died in a plane crash. He had stayed by Gu Guolong's side for more than 10 years, and Gu Guolong had always treated him as his own son. Gu Guolong was very surprised that there were guests at home, and they were guests that Gu Qia had brought back from Huaxia. However, the Huaxia people were born with the idea that it was a pleasure to have friends from afar. Ever since Su Yin entered the house, he had been treated very politely. Gu Qia brewed some flower tea, and everyone sat in the living room. After hearing Su Yin's explanation, Gu Qia added what had happened to the white wolf today. Gu Guolong's reaction was still calm. After all, at his age he had seen through many things. However, there was one thing that he could not accept. Bao Shisong could compete with him for business, but he would not kill the white wolf because of these conflicts. After all, everyone was Chinese outside. If it were not for the fact that they were Chinese, Gu Guolong would have had the chance to send Bao Shisong to hell when he betrayed the Big Circle a few years ago. So that girl is still in Bao Shisong's hands. Does he want ransom? Gu Tianji frowned. He did not like this guest who had come from afar, because his appearance seemed to have disrupted their lives. Gu Qia nodded. I know that Bao Shisong is despicable, but I didn't expect him to be so despicable. You actually let the white wolf kidnap his son. Why didn't you discuss this with your family? Why didn't you discuss it with me? Although Gu Tianji felt that Gu Qia's actions were very wrong, he did not dare to blame his sister too much. If I told you, you would definitely say that it's better to avoid trouble. Gu Qia knew her brother very well. But I have to help Su Yin. Gu Guolong's face darkened. He did not say anything. The white wolf's death made him very sad. However, he did not expect that this matter was actually related to his daughter. To put it more seriously, it was indeed his daughter's actions that caused the white wolf to get into trouble. Otherwise, Bao Shisong would not have killed him. There were some words that Gu Guolong could not say, but Gu Tianji was still a young man with a lot of anger. He did not care about hospitality and said unhappily, "You harmed the white wolf in order to help an outsider. Chia, I know you have your own ideas since you were young, but can you be more mature? Don't be so impulsive. This matter has nothing to do with her. Suyin said. It's all because of me. I'm very sorry about this. Old Gu, I'm sorry. It's already happened. There's no point in saying sorry again. Gu Guolong said. I just want to know what kind of help you and Chia need when you come to our house. It's not easy to go out. We are all Chinese. I will do my best to help you. Suyin was already very sorry. How could he still have the nerve to ask for help? I'm already very grateful to Gu Chia for bringing me to Canada. Suyin said. I'll find a way to solve the rest myself. I'm only here for this because I want to say sorry for what happened. Old Gu, I'm really sorry. What are you talking about? How can you solve it yourself? Bao Shisong has the Dark Angel backing him up. Gu Chia glared at Su Yun and then said to her father, Dad, when we went to find the White Wolf, because the police investigating the incident wanted Su Yun to show his ID, he had no choice but to attack. He attacked the police? Gu Guolong was really surprised by this young man. After causing so much trouble, he still dared to attack the police in Vancouver. Some people were good at dealing with both the good and the bad, but this Hua Xia boy was good at dealing with both. Even if Gu Guolong were to return to his youth, he wouldn't be half as courageous as him. Chia, are you joking with us? Gu Tianji was speechless. You brought a guy who attacked the police to your house. Do you think the police won't find out? You're too naive. Naive? Naive? Can't you say something else besides that I'm naive? Gu Chia was a little impatient. Then what do you think I should do? Leave him there and hand him over to the police? He sneaked in here without any ID and even attacked the police. Are you going to let him be detained for 3 to 5 years, and then deal with the proper business after he's released? Gu Tianji was speechless. His sister had always been stubborn and he couldn't argue with her. He also had scruples in arguing with her. After all, when he came to this house as a teenager, he had already begun to remember things. He was very clear about his identity. Although Gu Guolong had always treated him as a son, his father and Gu Guolong were half-brothers after all. As a nephew, he wasn't that orthodox. Chapter 943. Where do you think you are? You're not familiar with this place. Do you want to fight Bao Shisong alone? Not to mention that he has Dark Angel as his backer. What are you going to do about him alone? Gu Chia was anxious when she heard that. I will find a way to smooth things over with the police. You can stay here without worry. No matter what happens, I will help you. Su Yun was touched by Gu Chia's kindness, but he could also see that although Gu Guolong did not dislike it, he did not seem to want to stop it. After all, he had his own concerns. If it were not for Dark Angel's support for Bao Shisong, he would have fallen out with Bao Shisong long ago. However, he had to think about the overall situation. In addition, Gu Tianji was obviously opposed to this matter. He obviously did not want an outsider to disturb their lives. The Great Circle had finally recovered in the past few years. Now they had to cause trouble for an outsider. It was simply unwise and irrational. Su Yun did not want Gu Chia's kindness to become a burden. Although the Great Circle was the most powerful fist of the Chinese in this city, it was not to the point where it could cover the sky with one hand. People always had to understand each other. Su Yun understood their difficulties. The attack on the police is not as easy to deal with as you think. Gu Tianji, who had been in charge of these relationships, could not help but say, Chia, you know what we do. The police are already being polite by turning a blind eye to many of our things. They will not forgive you for attacking the police. You don't have to do anything about this. Gu Chia was quite firm. I will find a way myself. Those people have taken a lot of benefits from our Great Circle over the years, and we have never caused them any big trouble. Compared to Dark Angel who deals in drugs and those Indian gangs who cheat, steal and rob, our Great Circle has given them a lot of peace. Gu Guolong finally sighed and said, Chia, there are some things you have to consider for the overall situation. I know that you want to help your friend, but have you ever thought about how confident our circle would be if we were to fight against the Dark Angel? Whether it's people or guns, we have no advantage. Do you think this kind of gambling is worth it? There was a hidden meaning in his words. Is it worth it for this person? Of course, Gu Guolong knew his daughter very well. He knew very well that Su Yin was not a simple guy if he had the ability to get on his daughter's boat. This kind of man often had a fatal charm for girls. His own daughter had also reached the age of yearning for love, so it was inevitable that she would be attracted to this kind of charm. Dad, while we are helping Su Yin is also helping us, Gu Qia said. I know the situation of the Great Circle. I also know that the Dark Angels are against the Great Circle. I also know that the Indian gang is constantly causing trouble for us. Su Yin has the ability to help us out of our current predicament. What ability? Gu Tianji said bluntly. He did not believe it because for so many years, it was already difficult for him to do something that was recognized by the large circle of Chinese people. How could an outsider do it? Based on my understanding of him, Gu Qia answered without hesitation. Su Yin was really struggling because he did not know Gu Qia's understanding of him. He thought that she just wanted to help him out of some kind of loyalty. Gu Tianji had nothing to say. If he continued to talk, there would definitely be a quarrel. It was obviously unwise to quarrel with Gu Qia, so he would rather lower his head. Gu Guolong's trust in his daughter was much higher than his trust in Gu Tianji. Otherwise, the arms business would not have been handed over to Gu Qia to manage. Qia, maybe you know your friend, but we don't know him. But we don't understand him. If you want Dahuan to help him, sure. Let him prove it to us and see what ability he has, Gu Guolong said. With that said, he looked at Su Yun. Little Su, please don't mind what I said. The Great Circle isn't a charity organization. We won't help someone for no reason. Su Yun knew that Gu Guolong had something for him to do. Old Gu, if you have any orders, just say it. Even if you don't help me, I should do anything for you. After all, if it wasn't for Qia's help, I wouldn't even have the possibility to come here. Now I'm very grateful. When Gu Qia heard that her father was about to make a request, she said anxiously, Dad. Gu Guolong raised his hand to signal his daughter to stop interrupting. He said calmly, Don't worry, I will arrange for little Su to handle the matter with the police. But at the same time, he has to help me do something. Only then can I believe that he is worthy of my falling out with Bao Song and making a request. Qia, this is my bottom line. Gu Qia stopped talking and sat at the side drinking tea helplessly. Gu Tianji's interest was piqued. He knew that Gu Guolong might want Su Yin to do that thing. If the Great Circle decides to help you get someone, you have to be prepared to make a huge sacrifice, Gu Guolong said. I need to know if this sacrifice is worth it. If you can stand up and be prepared to sacrifice for the Great Circle, then I will help you. This is a very simple principle. I think you should understand. Su Yin nodded. He knew what Gu Guolong meant. There is a large-scale car repair shop at the 13th Street. Gu Guolong continued. That place used to be the birthplace of the Great Circle. It was also there that I met the former president of the Great Circle. Our Great Circle does not discriminate against Chinese people of any status. As long as they don't steal or rob and do legitimate business, we welcome them even if they are just shoe polishers on the street. Because I used to be just a fish seller, it was not easy to go abroad. Su Yin could imagine this. This kind of Chinese group was beneficial to the Chinese. At least it could unite the Chinese and prevent them from being bullied and ostracized by outsiders. But a few years ago, Bao Song betrayed the Great Circle. When the Great Circle was fighting against the Dark Angel, the Indian gang stepped in. Since then, the car repair shop has been taken over by the Indian gang. Gu Guolong said. Although the Great Circle and the Indian gang reached a principle of peaceful coexistence in the end, they did not return the car repair shop. Su Yin roughly understood what Gu Guolong meant. Old Gu, you want me to help you get the car repair shop back, right? Gu Guolong nodded. Because the Great Circle and the Indian gang have an agreement, we can't do anything. You are not a member of the Great Circle. If you can do this, I promise to help you deal with Bao Song. Dad, the Indian gang has already treated the car repair shop as their base. How can he deal with it alone? Gu Qia was, of course, worried. Although Su Yin had defeated her entire mercenary team on the boat, they did not use weapons. And the Indian gang in the car repair shop had guns in their hands. Su Yun smiled faintly. I thought it was something big. Since old Gu said so, I will do it now. It's too late now. Tomorrow. I will arrange for someone to send you there tomorrow. Gu Guolong was surprised because Su Yun was too calm. Su Yun nodded. Okay. I will listen to old Gu's arrangements. Dad, don't tell me you have really made up your mind? Gu Chia was stunned for a moment. Then she said to Su Yun, Su Yun, they have guns and a lot of people. Don't underestimate them. Chapter 944. Hearing Su Yun's words, Gu Tianji couldn't help but laugh again. It wasn't that he wanted to provoke Gu Chia on purpose, nor was it that he wanted to annoy Gu Chia. He just doubted what ability this young man in front of him had to actually dare to say such big words. How could he compete with the Hindustani gang for territory? He still had to borrow people from the big circle. I'm sorry, friend. It's not that I'm narrow-minded, but I'm a member of the big circle. I have to consider the interests of the big circle. Gu Tianji said. If you go and snatch territory, I can lend you guns and bullets. I can give you as much as you want. But the big circle will not contribute any manpower. After Gu Tianji finished speaking, Gu Chia rolled her eyes at him, but he was praised by Gu Guolong. Gu Guolong could not say such words, but he would not lend it to Su Yinren. If he used the brothers of the big circle to compete for territory, then it did not matter whether Su Yun was there or not. No matter what the final result was, the big circle's interests would be sacrificed. Su Yun smiled faintly. Of course. If I let the big circle contribute, then it would be meaningless. Just tell me how many guns and ammunition you want. When Gu Tianji heard that Su Yun did not want any manpower, he was somewhat shocked and impressed. But he quickly realized that the guy in front of him would not give up until he saw the coffin. Although the Indian Hindus looked dejected, and their skin made them feel like they were covered in dirt all day long, when they were really ruthless, it was not a joke. Think about the high crime rate in India. There were often cases of car accident, school accident, and even the police involved in the news of car accident. The people of that magical country were nurtured with divine oil full of energy. They were not to be trifled with. If they were pushed too far, they would bite back ruthlessly. Su Yun shook his head. No need. I've already troubled the big circle so much. How can I have the nerve to take their firearms? You don't have to be so polite about this. Gu Guolong said. After all, I have some small firearms business. If you need anything, just tell me. Don't be shy. I'm really not being polite. I really don't need it. Su Yun smiled. He was very respectful towards Gu Guolong. As the leader of the big circle, he was much more approachable than Su Yun had imagined. Moreover, the benefits he had brought to the Chinese in Canada were not just a little bit. Many Huaxia businessmen who had endured humiliation in the past were able to straighten their backs after joining the big circle. Before Su Yun could continue to refuse, Gu Chia took out an Italian Beretta 92F pistol from her waist and handed it to Su Yun. 15 bullets. At least it can help you. In the face of Gu Chia's kindness, Su Yun didn't know how to refuse or decline. He could only accept it. He didn't intend to start a massacre. Although the Hindustanis in India had done some despicable things, they didn't deserve to die. Moreover, once he took back the auto repair factory with a large-scale massacre, the hatred between the Great Circle and the Hindustani gang would be even greater. Perhaps there would be a huge potential danger. It was a good gun. Since the gun was introduced in 1985, it had dominated the competition. It was selected by the U.S. military as the M9 and became popular. For years later, the U.S. military selected the gun again and renamed it as the M10. Currently, the U.S. military was fully equipped with it. During the Gulf War, the U.S. military officers above the rank of lieutenant, including the commander-in-chief, had Beretta 92F pistols on their waists. This gun had high shooting accuracy. The opening and closing action was completed by the iron of the lock up and down to avoid the impact of the barrel moving up and down. Moreover, the failure rate was very low. It was highly adaptable in harsh combat conditions such as sand, dust, mud and water. Perhaps this was the reason why Gu Chia wore this pistol as her last line of defense. Gu Qia's pistol was very clean. The lusterless PTFE coating was brand new. Obviously, she hadn't used it much. To her, it was more like a defensive decoration. Su Yun skillfully took the pistol apart, checked it, and quickly put it back. The whole process took less than 10 seconds. He didn't even have to look to know the structure of the pistol. He was very familiar with it. As long as it wasn't a gun that was just developed this year, Su Yun was as familiar with it as he was with his own body structure. Gu Tianji looked at Su Yun with his mouth wide open. Obviously, Su Yun's cool behavior shocked him. If it wasn't for someone who dealt with guns all year round, it would be difficult for him to be so agile. Gu Guolong had a whole new level of respect for Su Yun. So much so that he regretted sending Su Yun to deal with the matter of the 13th Street's auto repair shop. This matter was not just a normal kind of dangerous. If Gu Guolong had the chance to make a decision, he might not have sent Su Yun to do such a dangerous task. However, a man should be true to his words. If Gu Guolong was a person who went back on his words and was full of jokes, he wouldn't have been elected as the leader of the big circle. What did you do before? Gu Guolong asked lightly. There was no need for Su Yun to lie here. Moreover, he skillfully dissected and put the pistol back together. If he lied, it would be too easy for him to be seen through. I was in the army for a while. I was fired because I disobeyed the management of the organization. Huaxia's soldiers won't disobey the organization casually. Gu Guolong also smiled. It seems that you caused a big mess. Haha, old Gu, you really have sharp eyes. Su Yun smiled bitterly. He did cause a big mess. Gu Qia knew that Su Yun kept those little secrets in his heart for so many years. Today, she couldn't help but blurt out. How could Yanlong be fired? That's impossible, right? Su Yun was shocked on the spot. Gu Qia actually knew his identity? However, during this period of contact, Gu Qia didn't mention Su Yun's identity. This was what surprised Su Yun. How did Gu Qia know? After all, not many people knew about Su Yun's identity, even in Huaxia. Gu Qia saw Su Yun's shock and smiled embarrassedly. I didn't mention it to you before. Actually, I knew about you a few years ago. If it was said that Su Yun was only shocked just now he was truly stunned. A few years ago, before he left the Dragon Brigade, he only knew a few women. No, it should be said that he only had contact with a few women. Moreover, he had never been to North America. How could Gu Qia know him? You must have mistaken me for someone else. Su Yun wasn't a movie star. His identity wouldn't be exposed. Therefore, it was impossible for girls to worship him like he was Superman. I might have mistaken you for someone else. However, the intelligence department of the American Special Forces will never make a mistake. Gu Qia smiled. I saw your information in their confidential files. Don't worry, we won't say anything. It doesn't matter if you admit it. What the F***ck? Su Yun should have thought about it. Even if Snowden didn't expose the fact that the United States was spying on the communications of other countries, the United States theft of communications still existed. The American Special Forces could even get their hands on the confidential information of the Dragon Brigade. This damned American empire really needed to be taught a lesson. Gu Guolong stared at Su Yun in surprise. He wasn't surprised by Su Yun's identity. He was surprised that his daughter dared to hack into the website of the American Special Forces. Once they had evidence against them, they would be in deep trouble. The CIA agents would never let them go. Chapter 945. Gu Tianji glanced at his sister helplessly. Qia, it's not the first or second time you've been to the trade route on the sea. Other than the high-priced mercenaries around you, you should have seen many kings of special forces. Even if you only watch TV, you should know that the SEALs, the Green Berets, the Black Berets, the Delta Force, and those brave and skillful troops that make their opponents tremble in fear are all people with steel and iron bones. And Gu Tianji glanced at Su Yun. I'm afraid even the members of the Marine Corps are stronger than him. Su Yun wasn't the kind of big guy who could scare people to death with just his muscles. In fact, he didn't even look as burly as Gu Tianji at first glance. However, this was just on the surface. Those Tai Chi grandmasters who lived in seclusion in the cities or forests of China, even if they were old, could still easily defeat the king of one-on-one duels in the Marine Corps. It's getting late, I'll leave first. Su Yin was not a thick-skinned person. He could see that Gu Qia was enthusiastic, but Gu Tianji did not welcome him, and Gu Guolong maintained a neutral attitude, so Su Yin did not want to stay here. You can't go anywhere tonight. Stay at our house. Gu Qia rejected Su Yin's request to leave. Where could he go when he was unfamiliar with this place? Gu Tianji saw that Gu Guolong had no intention of asking Su Yin to stay, so he did not care about going against his sister's wishes and said, "It's not that the Gu family is not hospitable, but the current situation does not allow you to stay. After all, we haven't been able to clear our relationship with the police. If a person who attacked the police is found in our house, I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to explain clearly. Who do you think will come to our house to search?" Gu Qia retorted, "Dad, no matter how bad you are still the leader of the big circle. The government and the police know this very well. They would not come here to search unless they are crazy. Su Yin is not going anywhere today. Where can he go if he leaves our house? He came back on my boat. Without any documents, the hotels and hostels won't let him stay. We can't let him sleep on the streets, right?" Gu Guolong knew his daughter's thoughts, but what Gu Tianji said was not unreasonable. After all, Gu Qia was present when Su Yin attacked the police today. Someone must have recognized her. If the police investigated this point, it was inevitable that there would be a late-night visit. "Dad, say something." Gu Qia was a little anxious. Her father's attitude made her a little disappointed. Su Yin smiled. "Qia, don't make things difficult for old Master Gu anymore, I understand. Even if you insist on keeping me here, I won't. I don't want to cause you unnecessary trouble. When I attacked that policeman, many people saw it. You and I were there at the same time. You know it very well. Then tell me where you can go. Give me a satisfactory answer, and I'll let you leave," Gu Qia said unhappily. If a man couldn't even get through one night, how could he be called a man? Su Yin scratched his head. I definitely have a way." Gu Qia ignored Su Yin and glared at Gu Tianji unhappily. Then she turned to her father and said, "Since you don't want to keep Su Yin, I'll find a way to arrange for him. Dad, you really disappoint me." After that, Gu Qia quickly walked to her room. A minute later, she changed into a coat and walked out with the car key. She directly said to Su Yin, "Follow me." "Where are you going?" Su Yin said awkwardly. He didn't expect that his appearance would make the Gu family somewhat disharmonious. "Don't talk so much nonsense," Gu Qia said and walked out of the house without looking back. Su Yin was helpless. He could only smile at Gu Guolong embarrassedly and followed Gu Qia to leave. Gu Guolong sighed and shook his head helplessly. He knew his daughter's personality very well. He couldn't stop her, and could only let her do whatever she wanted. As the saying goes, a grown girl can't be kept at home. Although Gu Guolong didn't have the patriarchal mindset of Hua Xia, he couldn't help but hope that he had a son at this time. "Dad, I don't think you should continue to indulge Qia." After Gu Qia and Su Yin left, Gu Tianji said tentatively, "It's easy for her to get herself into big trouble." "Yes. Who can say no?" Gu Guolong said, somewhat mentally and physically exhausted. "But Qia has grown up. She has her own ideas about many things. It's hard to be a father. You will understand when you become a father. I really hope Qia's mother can come back soon. Except for her, I'm afraid no one can persuade Qia." Gu Tianji was depressed and wanted to go out for a drink. He got up and said, "Dad, I still have some things to deal with. I'll go out for a while. Call me if you need anything." "Go. It's good for young people to be busy." If Gu Guolong knew that his son went out to drink instead of work, he would probably want to beat him up. After Gu Tianji left, he quickly made a few phone calls and asked his friends to meet at the bar they frequented. Gu Qia drove Su Yin away quickly. Along the way, she did not speak with a sullen face. Su Yin also sat silently beside her, letting her vent her dissatisfaction with him by using silent violence. In the end, Gu Qia could not help but say, "My dad is a soft-hearted person. As long as you say that you have nowhere to go tonight, he will definitely not drive you away. If I can't even do such a small thing as spending a night by myself, Why does Mr. Gu believe that I can help him get back the auto repair shop tomorrow? Suyin said. Chia, I have troubled you too much. I feel embarrassed. What's there to be embarrassed about between you and me? Gu Chia said. You make me feel more distant. Suyin shrugged his shoulders and did not know how to answer. He asked, Then where are you taking me now? Girls always have some close friends. Gu Chia said. Since you don't want to stay at my house, I have to find a way to settle you down. If I let you stay on the street, I will lose face. Close friends? Suyin was stunned for a long time. Was it not? He was a man. If a woman arranged for him to spend the night at her close friend's house, it would be embarrassing. He was about to refuse, but when he saw Gu Chia's sullen face, he could only swallow his words. Anyway, he was not familiar with this place, and no one knew Suyin. He could just make do with it for one night. Otherwise, Gu Chia would really be angry. Seeing that Suyin was hesitant to speak, but in the end he accepted her arrangement with silence, Gu Chia's face finally showed a satisfied expression. Suyin saw a map of Vancouver in the back seat of Gu Chia's car, and picked it up. The shortcut to quickly familiarizing oneself with a city was to understand the map of the city. As long as he kept the map in his mind, the feeling of unfamiliarity would be reduced by more than half. I'll give it to you, Gu Chia said. The places marked with red circles are the Dark Angel's private territory. You'd better not accidentally touch the minefield. The people of the Dark Angel are somewhat racist and hostile to foreigners. In particular, the big circles have always been disobedient to their management. Their dislike of the Chinese is much higher than their dislike of other races. If it weren't for the fact that Guoguo was still in Bao Shusong's hands, and that Suyin was not in the mood to meddle in other people's business, he would have really gone into these minefields to let them know that Huaxia people were not to be trifled with. Stop acting like a big shot in front of Huaxia people. Chapter 946. Gu Chia's best friend was a typical Chinese European. Although it was not strange for Westerners to be generous and open-minded, Lilith was only wearing thin and translucent pajamas. When she saw Gu Chia bringing a man over, she did not have the intention to change her clothes. On the contrary, she looked at Suyin up and down with a rather hot gaze, which made Suyin feel a little creeped out. Gu Chia shook her head helplessly and introduced the two to each other. She also repeatedly reminded Lilith that it was best to control her lonely and restless little heart, and not do anything out of line. Otherwise she would not forgive her. In this regard Lilith promised very straightforwardly, but her eyes were still staring at Suyin up and down with interest. Suyin felt a little embarrassed and had to avoid Lilith's gaze. Fortunately, Gu Chia was also there, so he did not feel uneasy. Suyin was still very conservative in his bones. After all, he grew up in the Huaxia army. His thoughts and soul were purer than the average person's. This was not a reaction that a hypocrite could fake. I still have something to do, so I'll leave first. Please take care of Suyin. Gu Chia got up and said to Lilith, Don't mistreat my distinguished guest. You don't have to worry at all. Lilith promised Gu Chia and half-jokingly said to Suyin, Even if he asks for 2 bar dancers to come here to drink with him, I will help him contact them and take the initiative to make room for him to behave atrociously. Gu Chia glared at Lilith speechlessly. This girl really talks without thinking. Sigh, there was no other way. Lilith was the only best friend that Gu Chia could trust. Lilith knew almost all her secrets. If she did not confide in some things, Gu Chia would be very depressed. Her psychiatrist told her that the simplest solution was to find a trustworthy friend to confide in. As a result, Lilith became Gu Chia's secret bucket. No matter if it was a big matter or a trivial matter, Gu Chia would tell her everything. Therefore, after Gu Chia returned to the shore last time, she told Lilith all about Suyin, the man who made her heart flutter. Lilith was no stranger to Suyin, but it was Suyun's first time meeting Lilith. Obviously, he was destined to be restrained. When Gu Chia mentioned that she wanted to leave, Suyin could not sit still. However, Gu Chia told Suyin very seriously, I have to solve the problem of you assaulting the police as soon as possible. If this problem is not solved, you will not only have to face the problem of the garage, but also the thousands of police officers in Vancouver. The police here are different from Huaxia. They have the power to kill people like you who threaten the authority of the police. So you'd better stay here obediently and wait for me to inform you that you can go out tomorrow. Then you can leave. Suyin really didn't want to make this matter so big, but now that things had reached this point, who could he blame? He could only blame himself for being too impulsive. Don't worry and go. I'm here. I won't let him leave casually. Lilith promised. After that, she looked at Suyin jokingly. With such a sexy girl like me here to accompany you, are you willing to go out and run around? Guqia saw Lilith's unscrupulous teasing and rolled her eyes helplessly. Even if he couldn't help but have a restless heart, he should wait until she left. After sending Guqia away, Suyin had to try to accept the reality of living in Lilith's house. Lilith lived alone. Looking at the structure of the house, the room was really not small. Compared with Huaxia's family living in a 100-square-meter building, a single girl in Canada had N rooms and N halls. It was obviously too extravagant. There was a large wine cabinet in Lilith's house, which was full of all kinds of drinks. Huaxia's white wine, Russian whiskey, European and American whiskey, there was everything. Perhaps because the guest Suyin was a Huaxia, Lilith found a bottle of Nulinshan Erguotu in the wine cabinet, and took 2 wine glasses to Suyin. She skillfully added a few ice cubes from the ice bucket into the wine glasses and said to Suyin, "My mother and grandmother are both Huaxia people, and my father is of mixed French and Chinese descent. They are all stock investors on Wall Street. But I don't like that kind of fast-paced life, so after graduating in Toronto, I decided to stay in Canada. Chia and I knew each other in college, and we have a very good relationship." While speaking, Lilith had already poured 2 glasses of Nulinshan Erguotu with ice. Baijiu was known for its strong strength, and Erguotu was famous for its strong strength in Huaxia. The Huaxia people did not have the habit of carrying a wine pot and drinking at any time and place like the Russians. Even if they drank strong liquor, they should at least have some peanuts as a side dish, right? Dry drinking? He really wasn't used to it. However, since she had already prepared it with great hospitality, Suyin was embarrassed to refuse. He picked up the wine glass Lilith pushed in front of him and took a sip. Lilith's alcohol tolerance seemed to be good. She actually drank it all in one gulp and said something that Huaxia people often said to express sincerity at the table. "I'll drink it. You can do whatever you want." Since the lady had already done it, how could a man like Suyin have the nerve to be pretentious? He hurriedly picked up the mouthful of wine and drank it. This was called giving face. The more someone said that you can do whatever you want, the more they knew how to take care of you, so the more face he had to give. Gradually, in the culture formed at the table, it was absolutely rare to see one side drinking while the other side casually took a sip. As long as the glasses touched, they basically drank it all in one gulp. Lilith also appreciated Suyun's straightforwardness. She then poured another glass of Nulinshan Erguotu. Although the addition of ice cubes helped dilute the alcohol, it was still very easy to get drunk if it was used in a bar to drink foreign wine mixed with other drinks. Suyin wasn't worried that he would get drunk. After all, his body had already undergone alcohol immunity training. He was worried that Lilith would get drunk. A woman getting drunk was more troublesome than a man getting drunk. This was Lilith's house. If she, the owner, got drunk, Suyin could only sleep on the sofa tonight. White wine is good, but don't drink too much. Suyin used an advertising slogan to persuade her. Drink less for your health. Even if you want to drink too much, I won't let you drink too much. Lilith said. Chia specifically told me to take good care of you. If I don't take good care of you, she will be angry. While speaking, Lilith had already sat closer and closer to Suyin. Her hot body made Suyin clearly feel the hot attraction. Could it be that Lilith was really interested in him? And she seemed to be telling him with her actions that she was trying to seduce him? F***ck. Suyin was immediately frightened by his own thoughts. He took a deep breath and tried to calm his emotions. He couldn't get into trouble after drinking so little. Not to mention that Lilith was Guqia's best friend. Even if she wasn't, Suyin couldn't forget his mission in Canada and flirt with a girl. Lilith picked up Suyun's glass and handed it to him. You look very hot. Take off your clothes. It's okay. Just treat this as your own home. Look at me. I'm wearing cool clothes. Soo-Yun didn't dare to continue looking. Lilith was wearing something cool. The pajamas were a little too thin, and the light was too translucent. After drinking some alcohol, Soo-Yun's eyesight became better, so he could see even more clearly. Now that Soo-Yun was under so much pressure, he needed to vent. Lilith's behavior was simply playing with fire. It's getting late. I think I'd better go to bed early. Soo-Yun avoided the topic and said, if it's not convenient for your room, I'll sleep on the sofa. Chapter 947. Oh my God. These words are too blatant, aren't they? Although Soo-Yun was not flustered, he was still a little confused. Mixed-race people often had a special charm. Their beauty, generosity, and openness really surprised Soo-Yun. Moreover, the way they expressed themselves was not subtle at all. They threw an olive branch to Soo-Yun quite clearly, sending a sensitive signal. I just want to sleep with you. Soo-Yun found it hard to accept and understand that Guqia's most trusted best friend would do such a thing. But perhaps this was the difference between foreigners and Huaxia. No matter how open-minded Huaxia people were, they were far inferior to foreigners. Because of cultural differences, because of social relations, because of many things that were innate in their bones. There was a joke that Huaxia people could not understand foreigners. They were so open-minded that they could sleep with the opposite sex because of a moment of impulse. And foreigners could not understand Huaxia people. They were so open-minded that they could marry someone after sleeping with them. It sounded like a joke, but it did reflect the difference in national culture. This was undeniable. No one's point of view was wrong. This was a topic that could never be debated. But with the development and progress of society, it had to be said that Huaxia people were gradually opening up. This was the influence and infection of foreign culture. Similarly, many foreigners were also infected by Huaxia culture. Now, being able to speak a few words of Chinese was already a foreign fashion trend, and a representation of the degree of culture. Don't think that foreigners could not understand Chinese. He remembered the first time Soo-Yun took a few brothers abroad to perform a cross-border mission. They saw a black man walking on the street. Hua Xiaolu unconsciously said, "Damn, you're so black." In the end, the black man retorted, "You're white." As Lilith got closer and closer, Soo-Yun felt her body temperature become more and more obvious. He had to put down the wine glass. Now he had to wash his face with cold water to sober himself up. He did not want to make a mistake on principle with such little alcohol. "Sorry, where's the bathroom? I drank too much tea before I came." "I'll take you there." Lilith didn't reduce her enthusiasm at all. She put down the glass, pulled Soo-Yun up, and led him to the bathroom. After Soo-Yun went in, she didn't leave at all. She leaned against the door and looked at Soo-Yun with a smile. Soo-Yun couldn't help but shiver. Not to mention that he just came to wash his face, and didn't have any intention to pee. Even if he had the intention to pee, being stared at by a mixed-race beauty would probably scare him away. "Shy. Then I'll excuse myself." Lilith covered her mouth and giggled as she walked away. Soo-Yun quickly stepped forward and closed the door of the bathroom. He turned on the cold water and put his head in. After a while, he calmed himself down. This cultural difference is too big. I can't accept it." After wiping his hair and the water droplets on his face, Soo-Yun walked out of the bathroom again. He felt that it was necessary to make things clear to Lilith. Even if it was just to respect Guqia, he had to let Lilith be more reserved. As soon as Soo-Yun walked out, Lilith came forward. Seeing Soo-Yun's wet shirt, she immediately helped Soo-Yun take it off. "Your shirt is wet. Take it off quickly. I'll help you dry it. Otherwise you'll catch a cold easily." Lilith moved so fast that Soo-Yun didn't expect her to do it. So before he could react, Lilith pulled off the buttons of his shirt, revealing his strong shoulders and full chest. "Wow!" Lilith's exclamation came from the bottom of her heart. It was hard for her not to appreciate such a manly charm for a while. After Soo-Yun reacted, he quickly tidied up his clothes and said to Lilith in a respectful and serious manner, "Lilith, I'm not denying your charm. You are indeed very attractive. But I still think that we should respect Guchia. After all, she is your best friend. If something happens between us, I think your relationship will definitely become stiff. Lilith showed an imperceptible smile at the corner of her mouth. She didn't interrupt Su-Yun. She nodded and motioned for Su-Yun to continue. You just said that you and Chia were good friends in college. Your relationship, in the words of our Huaxia, is like iron magnet. Su-Yun, if I do something with you, I'm afraid well, I don't know if you can understand me. I'm really sorry. I hope we can both be rational. Clap, clap, clap. After Su-Yun finished speaking, Lilith actually smiled and clapped her hands. Su-Yun looked at Lilith in surprise. He was worried that this girl was on drugs. Why was she so crazy? Lilith saw Su-Yun's horrified expression and couldn't help laughing. After a while, she held back her abdominal pain and said, Okay, I won't tease you anymore. It seems that you are not pretending. You are quite a gentleman. Not bad, not bad. Lu Xiaohui is your ancestor's relative, right? Ha ha ha. You. What do you mean? Su-Yun was a little confused. Lilith shrugged her shoulders. Let's go and have a drink. Since you came to my house and passed my good friend's test, you are my brother from now on. Test? Su-Yun was a little speechless. Were you joking with me just now? Phew. You almost scared me to death. Come on, if you are so timid, Chia won't like you. Lilith said. Alright, I'll be frank with you. What I did just now was to test you. If a man is so despicable that he will really have sex with his girlfriend's best friend, then this man must be a scumbag. I will never watch Chia fall into the hands of a scumbag. Su-Yun smiled bitterly. It seemed that he was too confident just now. He really thought that his charm could make the mixed-race girl so desperate. However, I have to admit that I almost became a scumbag who would really be tempted by her best friend's man. Lilith said, just based on your chest muscles, if you weren't Chia's boyfriend, I wouldn't hesitate to eat you up. After a pause, Lilith continued, Okay, let's stop joking. Although I like handsome guys and sometimes I am a little infatuated, I will not be reduced to a scumbag who would even touch her best friend's man. Su-Yun actually wanted to explain that his relationship with Gu Chia was not that of a boyfriend and girlfriend as she said. At least Su-Yun did not think so. But if he explained now, it would inevitably make Lilith have other thoughts. Su-Yun thought about it and decided to forget it. He did not need to explain anything. Drink a glass of wine to calm down. Lilith handed the wine glass to Su-Yun again. Su-Yun finally took the wine glass boldly and drank it. It was a false alarm. He was not afraid of anything happening tonight. Did Chia arrange it? Of course not. Lilith said. I acted on my own. However, before she left, I deliberately played a few tricks to hint to her that I would test you. She didn't tell me no, which means that she acquiesced. Now you know how strong our relationship is, right? She trusted me so much that she left her boyfriend for me to seduce and left without worry. Su-Yun nodded and thought to himself, the two of you are really tough, but you still fooled me. Chapter 948. Su-Yun smiled and drank another glass of wine. Gu Chia would help him without hesitation. It was not that he couldn't see that she treated him differently, but, forget it, he didn't want to think so much. He still had things to do tomorrow. You should rest early too. I prepared a room for you after receiving Chia's call. Lilith joked. I don't have the habit of closing the door when I sleep at night. If you go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, don't go to the wrong door. If you go to the wrong door, maybe I won't be able to control myself. Su-Yun smiled bitterly and nodded. Thank you for taking me in. If I have a chance to go to Huaxia in the future, I will entertain you all the way. That's really good. After drinking the wine in her glass, Lilith was ready to wash up and rest. Su-Yun didn't want to take the risk of being tested again. After Lilith pointed to his room, he went back to meditate. After his body and mind were relaxed, he quickly fell asleep. Because they had been on the boat for so many days, there was no need to adjust to the time difference. Su-Yun woke up very early, but Lilith woke up even earlier than him. When Su-Yun pushed the door open, Lilith had already jogged back for 20 minutes. She skillfully made breakfast for 2 people and invited Su-yin to eat with her. After eating, Lilith said to Su-yin very seriously, "I'm going to work now. I hope you can control yourself and don't go out. The crime of assaulting a police officer here is very serious. If you want to go out, you must get Chia's permission. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. I know you have your things to do, but there is an old saying in Huaxia, more haste, less speed. Do you understand what I mean?" Su-yin nodded. Of course, he knew Lilith's good intentions. He wouldn't let Gu Qia's painstaking efforts go to waste. He had waited for so many days, so he didn't have to wait a little longer. After Lilith left, Su-yin turned on the TV and watched the news. He didn't receive a call from Gu Qia all morning, but he still made himself wait patiently. Lilith didn't go home at noon, so Su-yin didn't feel restrained. He found some simple microwavable food in the fridge and ate some. Finally, at 3:15 in the afternoon, Su-yin received a call from Gu Qia. With the help of her father, she had cleared up her connections with the police. The chief of police of the Greater Vancouver District had ordered the withdrawal of the charges and arrest warrant against Su-yin. Su-yin could now go out openly. "I know that you won't go back on your word since you've already promised my father," Gu Qia finally said to Su-yin. "But I have to remind you to be careful. The Indian gang was notorious in Vancouver. If you can't do it alone, don't force yourself. My father won't blame you for this." After all, even De Huan didn't have absolute confidence in taking back the garage. Su-yin nodded and accepted Gu Qia's kind reminder. "Don't worry, I'll be careful. Take care of yourself." After Gu Qia hung up the phone, she began to regret her confidence in Su-yin. A large part of the reason she allowed Su-yin to agree to her father's unreasonable request was because she trusted Su-yin. She felt that Su-yin had the ability, but when Su-yin really wanted to do it, she couldn't help but worry. After all, when the members of the special forces carried out missions, they were usually in small groups. If they were alone, their strength would be greatly reduced. If Su-yin could do it with his Dragon Fury team, Gu Qia was definitely 120% confident. But now there was only Su-yin. How could she not hesitate? Su-yin was a man of his words. Because of this, Gu Qia was attracted to him. She knew very well that even if she wanted Su-yin to give up now, Su-yin was definitely not the kind of guy who would go back on his words. Sigh. Gu Qia's heart was full of contradictions, but she would not sit still. She would never let Su-yin do such a dangerous thing. After making up her mind, Gu Qia immediately contacted the mercenary team leader, Paul Owen, and asked him to gather his men. Normally, Paul's mercenary team would have 5 to 6 days of rest when they went out to sea with Gu Qia. Paul didn't expect it to be so fast this time. After asking for the reason, he found out that Gu Qia didn't gather them to go out to sea this time, but to complete a small mission on land to rescue Su-yin at any time. During the 10 days of contact with Su-yin, this straightforward mercenary team leader was deeply impressed by Su-yin. After learning about this matter, he took the initiative to ask for no commission. He would gather all the men who were willing to help to do this task. More than 30 men under him didn't refuse, and all of them gathered on time. Su-yin had studied the map of Vancouver in Gu Qia's car yesterday, and had a general understanding of the situation. When he arrived at the 13th Street, he was a little surprised, because Indians could be seen everywhere. It seemed that the Indians, who regarded the auto repair factory as the headquarters of the Indian gang, liked to move around here. A Huaxia man appearing in a street full of Indians was really a sight to behold. After all, the subtle relationship between the Big Circle and the Indian gang was a well-known thing. When Su-yin found the auto repair factory, he clearly felt the hostile and vigilant gazes around him. Before Su-yin walked to the entrance of the auto repair factory, he was stopped. He had to admit that the Indian in front of him was good at English. He spoke with a London accent. "Are you from Korea?" "Of course not." Su-yin refused directly. Korean men were all effeminate. They would do cosmetic surgery when they had nothing to do. How could there be such a manly man like him? "Then you are from Japan?" The Indian continued with a sullen face. Su-yin glared at him. "You are from Japan. Your whole family is from Japan. This undoubtedly exposed Su Yun's identity as a Huaxia man. A few Indians quickly surrounded Su Yun, not giving Su Yun a chance to attack. The leader with a London accent took out a pistol from his pocket and pointed it at Su Yun's lower abdomen. You are from the big circle, so you should know the agreement between us. People from the big circle can't come here. If you do anything, I will shoot immediately. Su Yun smiled. Not all Huaxia people are from the big circle. I am not from the big circle. I want to see your boss. When they heard Su Yun say that he was not from the big circle, the Indians were a little surprised. People from the big circle had a strong collective sense of honor. If he was from the big circle, he would never deny it. Someone like you wants to see our boss? Aren't you too naive? The Indian continued in his pure London accent. Even if you are not from the big circle, you are still from Huaxia. Our boss is not interested in Huaxia people. Boy, if you don't want to cause trouble for yourself, get out of here. Don't go near the garage again. I'm here for a big business deal. If your boss finds out that you'll lose so much profit by chasing me away, he'll definitely be very angry, Su Yun said. Aren't you worried that he'll remove your position as a small leader? The Indian with the London accent glared at him. If you don't leave, I will shoot. At this time, a Hindustani behind him whispered a few words in his ear. Only then did he calm down. Still holding the pistol, he said to Su Yun warily, Then tell me, what business do you want to discuss with our boss? Su Yun shook his head mysteriously. You don't have the authority to know about this at your level. Think about it. You guys have guns and people, but I'm all alone? Do I dare to do anything out of line? Don't you think so? Chapter 949. Su Yun was led by a few Hindustanis all the way to the auto repair factory. Su Yun also knew a little about Hindustani, so he quickly learned from the conversation of the Hindustanis that the guy who pointed a gun at him and brought him into the auto repair factory was called Akshamaku. Don't be fooled by his appearance. He was actually a small leader of their Hindustani gang. Su Yun also learned from their conversation that the leader of the Hindustani gang was called Almika, but he didn't know much about other things. However, Su Yun believed that he would be able to meet Almika soon. To be able to become the leader of the Hindustani gang in a country outside of their homeland, he was definitely not a simple person. After entering the garage, Su Yun was sure that this was definitely a paradise for Hindustanis. After a casual count, there were about 40 Hindustanis who were busy repairing cars. From the car, it could be seen that the people who came here to get their cars repaired were all poor, because the most eye-catching car was a 1967 Ford Mustang Shelby GT50. The rest were small, old cars that no one would buy even if they were offered $1,000. If these cars were in Huaxia, they would have been scrapped long ago. The 1967 Ford Mustang Shelby GT50 could be said to be the most difficult car to drive at that time, and even now, Su Yun had seen 60 Seconds of Haste, so he had an impression of this car. This was probably the first time that Huaxia people had entered the garage after the Hindustani gang took over the garage. Therefore, the Hindustanis who were repairing cars were all stunned. They watched Akshamaku lead Su Yun into their yard in disbelief. Some people even cursed angrily. From this, it could be seen how deep the grudge between the Hindustani gang and the Hindustani gang was. Brother, how far do we have to go? Su Yun saw that Akshamaku was leading him inside and couldn't help but become suspicious. Who knew if these guys were really taking him to see Almika, or if they were going to find a secluded place to knock him out and bury him alive? Don't talk so much nonsense. This is our territory. You Huaxia people have no right to speak. Akshamaku seemed to be quite resistant to Huaxia people, who knew how much the Great Circle had made him suffer. Su Yun smiled. As far as I know, this auto repair factory used to be the territory of the Chinese. You guys only took over it in the past 2 years, and you didn't take it over openly, did you? Ha, I'm a straightforward person. Please don't mind me. When Su Yun's voice fell, several Hindustanis couldn't help but want to give Su Yun a few punches. Fortunately, Akshamaku stopped them in time. Otherwise, Su Yun would have fallen out with them. All of you stop, Akshamaku said coldly in Hindi. Boss will naturally make a decision later. If he doesn't let him leave alive, it won't be too late for you to make a move. Let's see what kind of background this kid has. We have guns and a lot of people. Do you think we're afraid of a Chinese person? Perhaps he thought that Suyin didn't understand Hindi, so he spoke so unscrupulously. Several Hindustanis under Akshamaku immediately controlled their anger and punches. Thank you, brother. Suyin also deliberately pretended not to understand Hindi and continued to speak in English. Akshamaku ignored Suyun's gratitude and raised his gun to point at Suyun. You better not play any tricks with me. Otherwise, I guarantee you'll end up worse than that scrapped car. In the corner of the auto repair factory, a scrapped Chevrolet Black Antelope had probably been in service for more than half a century. It was really tragic to be hit like that. The owner's life might not even be saved. Believe me, I just want to talk business with you. Suyin smiled calmly and pointed at Akshamaku's gun. You have guns in your hands, and I'm alone. I certainly don't dare to play any tricks, right? Akshamaku snorted and continued to lead Suyin forward. Finally, they came to the innermost row of buildings in the auto repair factory. The buildings looked old, but they still looked solid. No wonder the Hindustanis liked this place. It could be said that it was a paradise for the poor. This wasn't to belittle the third brother. There were also excellent business managers, financial tycoons on Wall Street, and famous Hollywood movie stars in the third brother. However, compared to the Hindustanis in Vancouver, the Indians who joined the Hindustanis were mainly poor. Those who were really powerful disdained this gang. The Hindustanis were the same as the Big Circle. They were definitely not members of the upper class. Gu Guolong was very clear about this. Even if he made a lot of money because of the prosperity of the Big Circle, no matter how many people looked at him in a new light, he was very clear about his identity and status. He would always be a member of the Big Circle. He would never be able to integrate into the upper class like the Dark Angels and pretend to be virtuous. I'm warning you for the last time. Don't play any tricks when you see our boss. After Akshamaku finished speaking, he knocked on the door. The door was opened by an Indian girl. After the girl saw Akshamaku, she greeted him and quickly motioned him to come in. Then she left in a hurry. Akshamaku immediately led Suyin into the room. There were 3 people in the room, all sitting on the spacious sofa with a cup of hot black coffee in front of them. The 3 of them were about the same age, between 35 and 40 years old. Suyin could not tell who was the boss of the Hindustanis, Almika, from their first impression. However, Akshamaku immediately solved the confusion for Suyin. He greeted the 3 people in Indian. Obviously, the man sitting on the left side of the sofa was Almika. He was about 40 years old, with drooping eyes and a slightly protruding nose. The man sitting on the right was called Urvanti, the deputy leader of the Hindustanis. The man sitting on the sofa was called Richpitan, the third in command of the Hindustanis. Akshamaku was very respectful to the 3 people. After greeting them according to their status, he pushed Suyin in front of them. This is the Chinese who wants to talk business. What business do we have to talk about with the Chinese? Almika did not even raise his head to look at Suyin. He said in a slightly impatient tone, if it was a profitable business, the Chinese would have already talked to the Big Circle. Why would we have a turn? Yes. Akshamaku was a little flustered. He turned his gaze to Urvanti. Ilfant smiled faintly. I was the one who told Latika to tell Akshamaku to bring this Chinese here. Boss, sometimes we can't always keep the Chinese outside the door. Maybe they really do have some business that they don't want to do with the Big Circle. You know, the Chinese are famous for their selfishness. Maybe he wants to do better than Gu Guolong and plan a new Big Circle. You really think so? Akshamaku frowned. He then said to Richpitan, what do you think? Richpitan also nodded. Urvanti is right, boss. Since Akshamaku has brought him here, we can listen to what he has to say. These people were talking in Indian. Suyin still pretended that he did not understand. He even deliberately said, let's talk nicely. I came here sincerely. At least give me a chance to finish my words. Chapter 950. Since Almika had spoken, It meant that there was room for discussion. Suyin did not stand on ceremony with him. He pulled over a chair in front of the desk and sat down. He even casually took a bottle of mineral water from the table and gulped down the entire bottle. It seemed that he was really thirsty. Suyun's actions more or less surprised the 4 Indians present. They did not know whether the international and national relations between China and India were good or not, but one thing was for sure in Vancouver. The Indians of the Indian gang were not on good terms with the Chinese in the big circle. No other Chinese would be able to sit in front of them so calmly and boldly raise conditions or requests. This was something that had been deeply engraved in their hearts. Therefore, the sudden appearance of Suyun, a Chinese who behaved so casually, made them feel a little crazy. "Who told you to sit down?" Akshamaka shouted. He knew his boss's temper. If the Huaxia he brought in did not know the rules, he was afraid that he would be blamed and implicated. Suyin glanced at Akshamaku. Obviously, he did not dare to brandish his gun in this room. The 3 people here were his immediate superiors. So, Suyin did not have to worry about the bullet going off. He still sat in the chair arrogantly. "I'm here to talk about a deal. The premise is that we are all fair. Otherwise, what's the point of talking about?" "Ha ha ha, friend. Don't be too arrogant. We still don't know what you have in your hands. What if we are not interested?" Ilfant obviously admired Suyun's fearless personality. If Suyin was not a Huaxia person, and was one of them, he would definitely put him in an important position. At least, someone with this kind of personality would definitely be more promising than Akshamaku. Suyin shrugged his shoulders indifferently. "I'm confident that no one would be uninterested in the conditions I'm offering, because it's the most precious thing in the world." The more this Huaxia kept him in suspense, the more curious Almika became. He gave Richpitten a look, and only then did Richpitten open his mouth to ask, "What do you have in your hands? It's best if you tell me clearly." "Why don't I state my conditions first?" Suyin said. "This is the main purpose of my visit." What an arrogant young man. He actually wanted to directly state his conditions. Almika narrowed his eyes as he stared at Suyin. After a while he slowly opened his mouth. "Fine. Then tell us first. What do you want? What can we give you?" "Young man, let me warn you in advance with the ancient saying of Huaxia. A man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. It's not good to be too greedy. How much money do you want? Think about it first." Richpitten was very straightforward. Suyin looked around the office and said with a smile, "Talking about money hurts feelings. I don't want money. I just want your car repair shop. What do you think? It's not too much, right? It's not too much, right? This brat is simply crazy." Alexei Makuk almost collapsed. This brat was really rude. If he had known, he would have shot him outside. Then he wouldn't have let him to spout nonsense in front of boss. Boss must be in a terrible mood right now. There was only one thought in Aksemaku's mind. He pulled out his gun and get this guy out of here. Don't let him cause trouble for boss. However, before he could pull out his gun and load it, a PU sound rang out. The gun in his hand was sent flying by a powerful bullet. Aksemaku was stunned for a long time before he came back to his senses. Suyin was holding a Beretta 92F in his hand. A mineral water bottle was placed at the muzzle of the gun, acting as a temporary silencer. Due to the penetrative power and heat of the bullet, the bottom of the mineral water bottle had been melted to the point that it was somewhat deformed. No one saw when or where he pulled out his gun. It all happened so suddenly. Although Ilfant and Richpitten both had weapons on them, they couldn't summon up the courage to pull out their guns. Their opponent's speed was simply too fast. So fast that they were completely caught off guard. Aksemaku was completely dumbfounded. This was his responsibility because he didn't search Suyin at all. It wasn't that he forgot the necessary procedure for Huaxia people to enter a car repair shop, but he didn't think that Suyin was a member of the big circle. Moreover, he was alone, so he didn't put Suyin in his eyes. Now Suyin made him know the price of being careless. This isn't a friendly start. Almika finally began to seriously face this Huaxia youth. He didn't come with good intentions, and he even had a weapon on him. "Sorry, it was your people who wanted to shoot first. I was just defending myself." Su Yin threw the mineral water bottle that acted as a silencer on the table. He shook the gun in his hand and stuffed it back into his waist. If you don't have the confidence to be faster than me, then it's best not to take the risk. Richpitten sighed in his heart. Of course, he wouldn't take the risk. However, he still hoped that Ilfant would take out his gun to test how fast Su Yin was. However, Ilfant also didn't have the intention to take the risk of his head exploding. His idea was the same as Richpitten's, to wait and see. If someone wanted to test him, then it would be the best. Aksemaku, there's nothing else for you to do here. You can go. We need to talk about something alone, Richpitten said. Akemaku was so grateful that he almost pissed his pants. Leaving this place was his only thought at the moment. Of course, he knew very well that Richpitten wanted him to leave, so he gathered all his brothers to settle this matter. I still have 14 bullets in my gun. Excluding the 4 of you, there are still 10 bullets left. Su Yin didn't have the intention to stop Aksemaku. If we can't talk properly, then I don't mind betting my life on whether I can exchange it for 14 lives. From now on, if anyone dares to step out of this door, then I'll have to say sorry to them. Facing such a straightforward threat, Aksemaku's footsteps froze. Just now, when his gun was hit by a bullet, his heart almost jumped out of his chest. If that bullet really did hit his head, then he was afraid that it wouldn't be a good thing. Even though Richpitten had spoken, Aksemaku still didn't dare to step out of the door. In this day and age, whoever was the boss had the final say. Aksemaku wouldn't use his life to test Su Yun's bottom line. Even if he only had a 1/10th chance of shooting, or a 100th chance of hitting him, he would never gamble with his only life. The person who did that was either a madman or a fool. You want the auto repair shop? Ha ha ha. What's your bargaining chip? After all, Almika was the leader of the Indian gang. He still had this bit of courage. If someone threatened him to surrender everything, then he wouldn't have gotten the position he had today. Su Yin pretended to be surprised. Can't you see? My bargaining chip is your lives. If you can't even keep your lives, then what's the point of having the auto repair shop? You're their leader. You know what's most important, don't you? Almika's killing intent was strong. A brat from Huaxia actually dared to threaten him in his territory, and didn't even allow him to bargain. If this matter couldn't be settled, then how could he be the leader of the Indian people? How could he lead their group to become richer and stronger? They had been left far behind in the past few years. If they lost this foundation, then it would be even more difficult to survive in this city. Chapter 951. Almika sneered. I knew the Great Circle wouldn't be satisfied with this place. Those who talk about integrity every day are just a bunch of sanctimonious people. No matter what you think, I am not a member of the Great Circle, Su Yin said. However, this place originally belonged to the Great Circle of Chinese. As far as I know, the despicable ones were you, not the Great Circle. After so many years, you should return this place to the Great Circle of Chinese. One day, the dove will have to return the magpie's nest. So many of my subordinates depend on this garage to make a living. There is no way I will give it up, Almika said bluntly. You are just threatening me. It is meaningless. Those who depend on this place for a living will not agree to it. If you have the ability, then kill us all. Su Yin found Almika's shameless behavior laughable. When you snatched this garage from the hands of the Great Circle of Chinese, you did not spare a thought for the Chinese who lost their jobs because of it. If you can't survive, I can point you in the right direction. Go back to your own country and set up a stall next to the train tracks. Sell some fruits and whatnot. Your business should be quite good. Just as Almika and Su Yin were haggling, Ervanti finally couldn't help but pull out his gun. His position in the Indian gang was higher than Richpitten's, not only because of his luck, but also because of his ability and courage, as well as his ability to grasp the right timing, which was better than Richpitten's. Ilfant pulled out his gun because he thought he had grasped the right timing. He was no longer afraid of the slightest thing. As long as he pulled the trigger, the Indian gang's problems would be easily solved. Moreover, he could also give the Great Circle of Chinese a warning. He told them not to have any more illusions about the auto repair shop, and to completely give up on this idea. However, in this situation where speed was everything, he was still one step behind Soo-yun. Soo-yun did not hesitate in the face of someone who wanted to pull out a gun and kill him. This filthy society's hands were stained with who knows how much blood. Soo-yun had no need to pity them. The bullet pierced through Ilvante's forehead. Ilvante raised the gun in his hand and slid down the sofa with a stiff body. The black and red blood splattered on the white wall behind the sofa, forming a brilliant and dazzling flower of blood. I don't want to kill anyone, but you better not force me. The muzzle of Soo-yun's gun was still burning hot. Almika and Rich Pidden were so shocked that they couldn't say anything. Based on their understanding of the large circle of Chinese people over the years, most of the time, guns were used as a tool to threaten others and protect themselves. Very few people would actually pull the trigger. On the other hand, the guy in front of him was shooting so skillfully without any hesitation. This guy was different from the other Chinese in the big circle. He was more decisive, determined, and unyielding. Almika wasn't even afraid of Gu Guolong, but in front of Soo-yun, a sense of fear and respect rose from the bottom of his heart. Even if he didn't want to admit it, he couldn't control this feeling. He couldn't control the stiffness of his body. Aksharmaka squatted on the ground and looked at Ilfant's body that had fallen down the sofa. His head was still bleeding. He felt a warm feeling in his crotch. Like the blood on Ilfant's head, a warm current flowed out uncontrollably. We're all outsiders. If we took care of each other, we wouldn't have been bullied to this extent by the Dark Angel. Soo-yun, if you submit to the big circle in the future, I believe that old Gu won't kill you all. He'll definitely let you all have a place to live. I'm not as kind as old Gu. Those who submit to me will prosper, and those who oppose me will perish. Maybe the next bullet will be you. If a life threat was only said with words, it wouldn't be enough to intimidate people. There were too many people who said kill whoever, every day, but if it was just said, the people who heard it would just laugh. Once they took action, the consequences wouldn't be something that could be laughed at. Rich Pidden was glad that he wasn't the one who took out the gun. If Ilfant hadn't done it first, he suspected that he would be the one to do it a few seconds later. The person lying in a pool of blood right now wouldn't be Ilfant, but him, Rich Pidden. Ilfant's death shocked Almika. His nails had already dug deep into the leather armrest of the sofa. At the age of 15, he made his way to Canada alone. At the age of 25, he united all the Indians to form their own gang. Over the past 15 years, he had grown the gang into a gang that even the big circle had to be wary of. But in the eyes of this young man, he was so weak. Although a person's belief was strong, it could easily be broken at any moment. Almika's belief seemed to have been shattered by the sound of the gunshot. Of course, this time, Soo-yun didn't use the water bottle as a silencer. The gunshot quickly alerted all the Hindustanis in the car repair shop. It had to be said that the Hindustanis gathered in the car repair shop were indeed very united. Everyone put down what they were doing and hurried to the boss's office. One thing was certain. Although these people were nervous, they weren't worried at all. Because they knew very well that the person Oksemaku had brought in was just an ordinary Chinese youth. Rather than believing that Ilfant had been killed, they were more inclined to believe that the young Chinese had been killed by Ilfant or Rich Pidden. Soo-yun pointed the gun at Rich Pidden. If you don't mind, throw the gun on your body on the table. This is for your own good. If you lose control, you won't be pulled out from behind your back and get. Let me make it clear, I'm not a murderer. I prefer peaceful coexistence. Rich Pidden was the most cowardly of the three leaders. If it wasn't for his relationship with Almika's cousin, he wouldn't have reached his current position. Under Soo-yun's threat, he didn't even have the slightest intention of resisting. He quickly pulled out the gun from behind his back and placed it on the table. Almika cursed in a low voice. Trash. Cousin, I'm doing this for your own good. Rich Pidden said. I've said it before. If we take over the car repair shop, sooner or later the circle will come looking for trouble. You didn't listen to my advice. Shut up. Almika wasn't in the mood to listen to his trash cousin's complaints. He sneered and stared at Soo-yun. You think my brothers are all cowards? Ilfant's death won't scare them. They've already heard the gunshots and are rushing over. It's impossible for you to escape unscathed now. Su-Yun smiled as he put away his gun. He quickly dismantled the gun Richpitten threw at him into a pile of scrap metal. He then pointed at a huge safe in the office. If I'm not wrong, your guns should be in there. If it's cash, there's no need for such a big safe. After saying that, Su-Yun stood up and extended his hand to Almika. Give me the keys. He kicked the gun Ilfant had dropped to the ground. Almika didn't answer. Su-Yunkai didn't bother being polite. He suddenly stood up and grabbed Almika by the collar, slamming him against the wall. Then he unceremoniously took the 2 keys from the safe hanging on his waist. He then slammed Almika onto the sofa. Su-Yun broke the keys. Without guns, I'd like to see how you're going to deal with me. You still have 13 bullets. Although Almika was almost choked to death, he was still stubborn. I have dozens of brothers. No matter how you kill them, you can only kill 13 of them. When you run out of bullets, even if they use a wrench, they can still smash you into minced meat. Chapter 952. Following a flurry of footsteps and the clanking of various metal tools, it was not difficult for Su-Yun to estimate the number of Hindustanis who were working in the auto repair factory. Su-Yun had already put away his pistol, so Akshamaku used the last of his courage to open the office door and rushed out like a madman. He shouted at the crowd in a panic, "Murder! Murder! Ilfant is dead! We can't let that Huaxia leave here alive!" Akshamaku moved against the flow of the crowd. He wanted to go to the back of the crowd because he knew that Su-Yun still had 13 bullets. He didn't want to be one of the 13 dead souls. After all, the most threatening weapons in the hands of his companions were only large wrenches and crowbars. Compared to pistols and bullets, these things were child's play. Almika took a deep breath. His fate was closely tied to that of his brothers outside with wrenches and crowbars. As long as they could control Su-Yun, the garage would still be theirs. Not only did he have to protect the garage, but he also had to let the circle know that he, Almika, was not someone to be trifled with. The Chinese had killed his deputy, so they had to pay a heavy price. The first person to rush into the room was already brandishing his crowbar at Su-Yun. Su-Yun wasn't stupid enough to just sit there and wait for death. He stepped forward and kicked the guy in the chest with a heavy cannon, sending him flying. 2 more people were knocked down, and the crowbar in the guy's hand also fell to the ground. The space in the office was too small. If he was trapped by a swarm of people, it would be very difficult for Su-Yun to perform. He knew this very well. Taking advantage of the preemptive strike, Su-Yun successively flipped over 2 people, using the momentum of one man holding back 10,000 men, to force all the Hindustanis out of the door. Su-Yun didn't hesitate and stepped out of the office. It was time to let these Hindustanis know that the Huaxia people weren't people they could mess with. Getting the hell out of here was their best option. After making up his mind, Su-Yun charged into the crowd and started a massacre. Faced with wrenches and crowbars, Su-Yun nimbly used swimming dragon steps to dodge them one by one. He was able to move around the group of boorish men in the garage with ease. After snatching the wrench with his bare hands, Su-Yun became even more powerful. His every attack was aimed at the vital joints of these guys. The Hindustanis who were close to him either had their knees broken or their wrists broken. Compared to the ferocious attacks of these fellows, which were aimed at Su-Yun's head, Su-Yun was already very kind. Only a few people who cursed and insulted the ancestors of the Chinese had their teeth broken by Su-Yun's wrench. While Su-Yun was busy dealing with the dozens of Indian repairmen outside, Almika wasn't idle either. He picked up the key that Su-Yun had crushed and examined it. Then he slammed it on the ground. He needed the gun in the safe. As long as he had the gun, he could win. At this moment, he wished that his safe had a combination lock and not the key lock that he chose. Richpitten wasn't idle either. He took the gun that Su-Yun disassembled and placed it in front of him. His hands trembled as he tried to reassemble the gun. Unfortunately, he didn't understand the mechanical principles of the gun. The only thing he knew how to use a gun was to pull the trigger. Other than that, he was a complete blank. Almika was quick-witted. He picked up the crowbar on the ground and smashed it against the safe. He hoped that the lock of the safe would be broken under the force of brute force. However, after smashing it a few times, other than the surface of the safe being scratched and dented, there wasn't a single problem with the lock. Looking at his cousin who was still frantically trying to fix the gun, Almika's chest burned with rage. Richpitten was stronger than him. Perhaps his strength could destroy the lock. Stop doing those meaningless things. Smash this damned lock for me. Richpitten originally didn't know where to start with the pile of spare parts. After taking the crowbar from Almika's hand, he vented his anger on the solid safe. At this moment, they wished that the safe was a third-rate product. That way, it wouldn't be unresponsive after being smashed by a dozen sticks. The miserable screams coming from outside made Almika's heart jump to his throat. He hoped that his brothers could hold on until Richpitten broke open this damned safe. Clang! Following a loud noise, the door of the safe bounced open. With time, an iron pestle could be ground into a needle. Using brute force, Richpitten finally broke the lock. The moment the door of the safe was opened, Almika instantly saw the hope of survival. He pushed away the excited Richpitten and quickly pulled out his favorite rifle from the safe. When Almika filled the chamber with bullets, he suddenly felt that something wasn't right. That's right. Just a moment ago, there were still miserable screams coming from everywhere. Now there were no more screams, only pitiful groans of pain. Almika's heart instantly sank. When Suyin lifted him up, he knew that this guy's skills were definitely not ordinary. However, he didn't expect him to be this extraordinary. In less than 3 minutes, he was actually able to take care of so many people. Gotcha! Almika furiously pulled the trigger. After loading the gun, he quickly turned around. Suyin was already standing in front of him. In an instant, Almika's mind went blank. He looked at the face that made him feel fear and pulled the trigger. Bang! After a loud gunshot, the wine cabinet behind Richpitten was blasted into smithereens. Shattered wine bottles scattered all over the floor. The entire room was filled with the pungent smell of whiskey. Richpitten was paralyzed with fear. His legs went soft as he leaned his back against the wall. He even forgot to go to the safe to pick out a gun for self-defense. He could only rely on the wall to keep himself standing. Suyin was still standing in front of Almika, unharmed. Just now, when Almika pulled the trigger, Suyin used his hand to block the muzzle of the gun. That was why he didn't have his head blown off by the powerful bullet. Almika's shot had angered Suyin. If someone wanted to kill him, he had no reason to spare his life. Just like what he did to Ervanti, Suyin took less than a second to pull out the pistol at his waist. He pointed it directly at Almika's head and pulled the trigger. After the muffled sound of the gunshot, Almika fell to his knees. His body began to stiffen as his eyes widened. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Perhaps this ambitious bastard still hasn't achieved his dream of unifying Canada's underground forces. Seeing that even Almika had knelt down, and all of his brothers were injured, Richpitten no longer dared to challenge Suyin. His knees trembled as he knelt down in front of Suyin. Perhaps he knew that kneeling was the highest form of etiquette for the Chinese. I swear, I will never challenge the Greater Circle or the Chinese again. I was wrong. I beg you, please let me live. Richpitten was not a material for greatness in the first place, so it was not unexpected that he would beg for mercy like a coward. Suyin put away the pistol and revealed a satisfied smile. I'm not a member of the Greater Circle, so it's not like the Greater Circle is fighting for territory with you. This place belongs to the Greater Circle. You know what I mean. I won't kill you. Take your brothers and find a better hospital for treatment. As for the 2 unlucky bastards who died, I don't think you're stupid enough to call the police. I definitely won't. Richpitten nodded vigorously. Chapter 953. Suyin had just walked out of the garage when several large minivans swarmed toward him. The sound of brakes sounded almost at the same time. The doors opened, and dozens of people swarmed out. Suyin's head was about to explode. It seemed that this matter was not over yet. Could it be that the Indian gang had more powerful reinforcements? In the face of this sudden situation, Suyin's hand had already unconsciously reached for the pistol at his waist. Originally, he did not want to waste bullets on Guchia, nor did he want to start a massacre. After all, the Indians were also human. But now, he was afraid that he could not do so. Once so many people in front of him went crazy, it would be difficult for Su Yin to escape unscathed if he did not shoot a few of them. However, the more people got out of the minivans, the more familiar Su Yin felt. When Gu Qiao appeared in his field of vision, Su Yin suddenly realized that this group of burly men were the mercenaries under Gu Qia. No wonder these guys did not take out their weapons when they got out of the minivans. Instead, they stared at him in surprise. After Gu Qia saw Su Yin, she did not care if these mercenaries would gossip about her in the future. She quickly ran forward and plunged into Su Yin's arms. She heard the gunshots and was naturally very worried about Su Yin's safety. As soon as she got out of the car, she saw Su Yin standing in front of her unscathed. To Gu Qia, this was God's greatest love for her. At least Su Yin was not hurt. She did not care whether the garage had been taken back or not. She only cared about Su Yin's safety. I think we should leave quickly, Su Yin said. The gunshots just now may have alerted the police. I'm sorry to have caused you trouble again. The police will not come. The 13th Street is a notorious den of chaos. It is not rare for gunfights to occur. The police won't make a big fuss over a group of foreign underworld forces. They hope that these people can solve their own problems, as long as they don't find trouble with them. After Gu Qia finished speaking, she touched Su Yin's chest. How are you? Are you okay? Of course I'm fine. Su Yin was a little embarrassed. After all, the group of mercenaries were already whistling at them with smiles on their faces. Tomorrow, I can ask old Gu to arrange for the big circle of people to come back. This place no longer belongs to the Indian gang. They have already promised to return it to its rightful owner. In the future, the garage and the 13th Street will still be De Huan's territory. Gu Qia did not know how Su Yin did it, and she did not want to know. The process must have been very dangerous. She only needed to know that Su Yin was not injured. Miss Gu, what should we do now? Paul walked forward with a smile. He would help Su Yin without hesitation, and Su Yin was very grateful. Gu Qia blushed and realized that her behavior had been seen by these guys. It's okay now. You guys go to the Chinese restaurant on Puyo Street. I'll call the boss to settle the bill. After you finish eating, go back and rest. I'll contact you when it's time to go out to see. Paul nodded. We won't be eating. We didn't help much, so we won't disturb you and Mr. Su. See you later. I'll drink with you guys when I have time. Su Yin expressed his gratitude in his own way. Paul grinned and laughed heartily. I couldn't ask for more. But I'm afraid that Miss Gu won't allow us to drink too much once we get on the boat. Ha ha ha, Mr. Su, you'll definitely have a chance in the future. After the mercenaries left, Gu Qia got into her car and prepared to take Su Yin home. Su Yin helped De Huan solve the problem. Of course, he also hoped that Gu Guolong would keep his promise and help him contact Bao Shisong. He had not seen Guogua for almost 2 weeks. He really did not know what kind of situation this little girl was in now. Thinking of this, Su Yin felt worried. After returning to the Gu family, Gu Guolong had obviously heard about what happened at the garage. There were many Chinese in De Huan, and naturally, there were many spies. Su Yin told Gu Guolong about the process. Gu Guolong's shock was no less than Christopher Columbus's discovery of the New World. With just his own strength and 3 bullets, he took care of the Indian gang, which De Huan had been reluctant to get involved with. This kid's ability could only be described as terrifying. Dad, I've said that Su Yin is not an ordinary person. Now you should believe in his strength, right? Gu Qia said. With Su Yin helping us, De Huan has no shortage of hot-blooded brothers. There are also mercenaries we can use. We don't have to be afraid of Bao Shisong's backer at all. Even if Dark Angel wants to protect him, we have the ability to resist. Although Gu Tianji was very surprised and impressed that Su Yin single-handedly destroyed the Indian gang, he still did not agree that De Huan would offend Dark Angel because this guy wanted to find a little girl. Dark Angel was a local snake. As the saying went, a strong dragon could not suppress a local snake. This was not just a saying. Some things in one's bones were hard to change. The Dark Angels covered the entire upper-class society of Vancouver. To put it bluntly, The Dark Angels were just a group of foreign mobs that had formed a low-class society. If they fought with Dark Angel, De Huan had no advantage. After all, the Indian gang is the Indian gang, a group of Indian people. Gu Tianji said. Being able to destroy them does not mean that we have the strength to go against Dark Angel. Chia, don't take this matter too lightly. I'm doing this for Su Yun's sake. A group of Indian people? Then why didn't I see you take back the auto repair factory? Gu Chia was quite dissatisfied with Gu Tianji's opposition. Gu Tianji explained helplessly, we have an agreement. I can't let people think that De Huan is not sincere because of this. This was just a high-sounding excuse. If De Huan was not afraid of hurting themselves, they would have already fallen out with the Indian gang. Who would dare to care about an agreement? Integrity wasn't something that could be applied to everything. Everyone knew this, including Gu Guolong. Otherwise, he would not have let Su Yun get involved in this mess with a tentative attitude. Don't worry. I, Gu Guolong, will definitely do what I promised. Gu Guolong raised his hand to signal the two to stop quarreling. He said to Su Yun lightly, I have arranged for someone to investigate. Bao Shisong did not hurt the little girl you want to find, but he seems to be plotting something. I have arranged for someone to meet him tomorrow. You have already made an appointment? Gu Chia was a little surprised. Her father did not mention this, and she had just learned that Su Yun had taken over the auto repair factory. Gu Guolong looked at his daughter kindly. I also have a daughter. When you were a child, you were lost. I understand that feeling. Even if Su Yun can't help me take back the auto repair factory, I will not ignore it. At least I have to do my best. If Bao Shisong just wants money, then things will be easy. A warm current flowed in Su Yun's heart. Like daughter, like father. Gu Guolong was a principled good man. Although he had done many bad things, his motive was for the benefit of De Huan and the local Chinese. This should not be blamed on him. It was their living environment that forced them to do so. Gu Chia was very grateful for everything her father had done. With her father's words, she was relieved. She believed that her father would not let Su Yun down. As long as Su Yun was not disappointed, her world would be sunny. Old Gu, I can't thank you enough, Su Yun said seriously. Chapter 954. Gu Guolong had already made an appointment with Bao Shisong for tomorrow's meeting. Su Yun understood the principle of don't doubt the person you use. So he wouldn't ask Gu Guolong how he was going to operate or how he was going to solve the problem. He believed that since Gu Guolong had already made arrangements, he would be able to give him a satisfactory answer. Gu Chia's mood was also at its best since she returned to Canada. Since her father had made arrangements, she could take Su Yun around with ease. Now the threat from the police had been eliminated. After Gu Guolong informed a few of his right-hand men to rearrange people to enter the auto repair factory, the news of Su Yun taking over the auto repair factory in the 13th Street spread like wildfire in the circle. In just a short hour, Su Yun had completely become a well-known figure in the circle. Whether it was the old, the weak, the women, or the middle-aged or the young, everyone was amazed and admired him. The annoying Hindustani was finally driven away, especially the Chinese who relied on the auto repair factory for a living. This news made them even more excited. In the process of people passing the news to each other, Su Yun was undoubtedly more mysterious and even mythical. There were even rumors that Su Yun's appearance was a sign that old Master Gu was preparing to give up his position. That Su Yun was the son-in-law who was preparing to marry into the Gu family. That he would marry Gu Chia, and then take on the responsibility of leading the circle under Gu Guolong. Taking back the auto repair factory was just a way for the future leader to prove his ability and loyalty. Of course, there were also people who said that Su Yun was just a passerby in the circle, and that Gu Guolong would eventually hand the future of the circle to Gu Tianji. Those who said this were basically Gu Tianji's confidants. Gu Tianji was quite dissatisfied with this matter. Su Yun's appearance had undoubtedly lowered his prestige in the circle. He had done a lot for the circle. Even if he didn't make any contributions, he had worked hard. However, Su Yun had only done one thing, and he had received so much praise and recognition. He couldn't accept this fact. Every time his confidants passed on some rumors to him, he would develop a kind of hatred and disgust towards Su Yun from the bottom of his heart. It was as if Gu Qia had suddenly brought this person back to compete with him for the big circle. Because Gu Guolong was quite satisfied with Su Yun's performance, Gu Tianji could not find any reason to slander Su Yun. The only thing he could do was squat in the bar and drink. The boss of Tang Bar, Tang Kunshan, was one of the people in the big circle who was loyal to Gu Tianji. He was very clear about Gu Tianji's current depression. After Gu Tianji drank a few glasses of vodka in one breath, Tang Kunshan did not pour more into his glass. Instead, he comforted him. Tianji, we don't have to worry about a newcomer. He doesn't belong to the big circle, and will leave sooner or later. Tang Kunshan was a few years older than Gu Tianji, and was one of the few people in the circle who could call him by his name. Gu Tianji smiled bitterly. Brother Shan, you haven't seen how much my father and sister appreciate Su Yun. In their eyes, Su Yun is like a savior who fell from the sky. I'm not jealous of him. I'm just worried that this guy will cause the big circle to completely fall out with the Dark Angel and become enemies. We all know that a strong dragon can't suppress a snake in its old haunts. It's impossible to fight against the Dark Angel. Old Gu is not a person without ideas. I believe he will understand this. It's impossible for him to fall out with the Dark Angel because of this kid. Tang Kunshan said. We don't need to worry so much. I thought so at first, Gu Tianji said. But before the kid with the surname Su took down the auto repair factory, he contacted Bao Shisong and prepared to negotiate. Bao Shisong is a dog of the Dark Angel. They say that you have to look at the master before beating the dog. If my father falls out with Bao Shisong because of Su Yun, the Dark Angel will not sit idly by. Tang Kunshan could only suck in a breath of cold air. Obviously, he did not want the big circle to go against the Dark Angel. If that happened, his bar would definitely suffer. A few years ago, the Chinese people of the big circle were forced to leave Vancouver. It was the Dark Angel who ruthlessly punched them. The scene was still vivid in his mind. The bar he opened at that time was also burned down. It was not easy to turn things around after all these years. He did not want to experience that kind of tragedy again. Maybe the Dark Angel won't take Bao Shisong seriously. Tang Kunshan probed. Old Gu won't kill Bao Shisong, right? Gu Tianji said. Brother Shan, you're just lucky. Even without Bao Shisong. Do you think the Dark Angel will still sit idly by and do nothing to the big circle? That kid has taken care of the Indian gang. There is no force here that can restrain the big circle. The Dark Angel will definitely find a way to let Bao Shisong restrain the development of the big circle. Only then can they rest easy. The big circle has just destroyed the Indian gang and dealt with Bao Shisong. Will the Dark Angel not be afraid of our big circle's actions? Tang Kunshan kept silent. He sighed in his heart. The gun shoots the bird that pokes its head out. The big circle has been slowly developing its power for so long, trying not to alarm the Dark Angel, so that they don't have to worry about our existence posing a huge threat to them. That's why the Dark Angel won't restrict our development. Gu Tianji said. What about now? Will they sit idly by and do nothing? Although Tang Kunshan knew that Gu Tianji's words made sense, he also realized a problem. Gu Tianji's thinking was no different from Bao Shisong's. He had already regarded the big circle as a group that needed the Dark Angel's silent existence. If the big circle were to be led by him, it might become just a dog of the Dark Angel. This thought only lasted for a moment. After all, Tang Kunshan was most concerned about his own interests. Even if the big circle became a lackey of the Dark Angel, his business would not be affected. I can't persuade my dad. He has to negotiate with Bao Shisong tomorrow. As Gu Tianji spoke, he tapped his wine glass and motioned for Tang Kunshan to pour wine. He asked me to go with him. I'm very upset now. Old Master Gu asked you to go with him because he trusts you. Tang Kunshan poured another glass for Gu Tianji. Tianji, you've already drunk a lot. It's better if you don't drink anymore. If Old Master Gu asks you to do something later and sees you drinking so much, he'll definitely be unhappy. Gu Tianji picked up his glass and drained it in one gulp. In a disappointed and jealous tone he said, Ask me? He doesn't have the time to pay attention to me now. The big circle's life is hanging by a thread, yet he's still in the mood to play Go with that kid surnamed Sue. I really don't understand what he's thinking. Is it possible that people at his age are all muddle-headed? Tang Kunshin tensed up. Don't talk nonsense. Go was a broad and profound game. In the eyes of laymen, it was a game of circles between black and white stones. In the eyes of people with a bit of culture, it was an upgraded version of Gomoku. Only those who truly understood the art of the game understood that the chessboard was a battlefield where thousands of troops and horses were controlled. The placement of the chess pieces was the mystery of war. Gu Guolong had not played Go with others for a long time, because it was difficult for him to find a match in the big circle. Today he suddenly had a whim and asked Su Yin if he knew Go. Su Yin nodded. The two of them began to play Go. Gu Qia quietly poured tea and waited on them. She knew that a true gentleman should not speak while watching a game. Although Gu Qia was definitely not her father's match when playing Go, there was a saying that the onlooker sees the game best. As a bystander, she was very sure that her father had the upper hand in this game of Go. It was almost impossible for him to turn the tables. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.